Part 41. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 402. Anyway, as a star, the purpose of becoming famous is not to marry into a wealthy family. The appearance of these blind dates is not very good, and they are completely incomparable with Li Zhe. But even so, she has never been successful in a blind date. Not to mention those who are truly powerful, even those with a little bit of power are not easy to serve. Gao Yuanyuan married a has-been male star from Taiwan. Ordinary people in the mainland thought she was marrying down. In fact, when she got married, she had to strictly abide by the family rules. If the position of plates, bowls, and chopsticks is slightly wrong, you will be punished. This was all said by her father-in-law himself when he was on the show, and his tone was full of pride. As if to say, what about famous mainland actresses? You don't have to be obedient when you enter our house. She has to come back to film after being married for many years, which proves that her married life is not as beautiful as the media said. If it were other rich people, they would just treat Xiaoqiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and others just for fun. They would never be like Li Zhe, who really wanted to take responsibility and marry them. Rich people and CEOs are led by ordinary girls and will not marry unless they are the other party. Such scenes only happen in romance novels. Li Zhe closed the web page and clicked on another news item. 2009, when Penguin comes out, who can compete with him? In 2009, the top spot in the online game industry was shuffled again. Jukan lost up to 92% of its revenue after losing World of Warcraft. Not to mention a first-tier manufacturer, it was not even a second-tier manufacturer. Internet.ye took over World of Warcraft, but the approval was blocked. Penguin finally kicked Chenda down and took the top spot in domestic online games. Jinshan was very depressed. After several years of sharpening Sword 3, it was still a blunt sword, unable to achieve high or low results. World of Warcraft has stopped serving, Ion has become the biggest winner, and its influence has swept across the country. Qwen technology has an obvious upward trend, and may become a strong competitor of Penguin Games. If asked what was the most popular online thing in China in 2009, the answer would be stealing food. Stealing food and competing for parking spaces are all extremely simple web games, but precisely because they are so simple and do not require much thought, they have become very popular. Li Zhe looked at the news and couldn't help but smile. World of Warcraft has not stopped serving. How can Qwen Technologies Ion dominate the market? At present, Kudong Technologies' single quarter revenue has exceeded 600 million, officially ranking among the first echelons in the gaming industry. Of course, it is still incomparable with Penguin Games. In the second quarter of this year, Penguin Games revenue reached 1.24 billion, exceeding 10 million, making it the first in the industry. Xiaoqiao followed him and watched the news twice. Feeling bored, he picked up his phone and started playing Angry Birds. Small games such as Angry Birds, Temple Run, and Total Fruit Slice have been launched on the Apple Store and Android platforms one after another, and the market feedback has been good. By next year, these small games will become another major pillar of Qwen Technologies' revenue. Dong dong, someone knocked on the door at this time. Li Zhe patted Xiaoqiao's butt and said, "It should be Bai Wei who is here. Go and open the door." "Honey, I'm busy, why don't you go ahead?" Xiaoqiao stared at the screen of her phone and kept sliding her fingers. "Go," Li Zhe hit her again. "Hubby, go ahead, okay." "Please, you're the best," Xiaoqiao said coquettishly. Li Zhe had no choice but to shake his head, put down his netbook, got out of bed, grabbed a bath towel and wrapped it around his waist, went over and opened the door. Bai Wei stood outside the door with a large dinner plate. When she saw Li Zhe coming out wearing only a bath towel, she glanced at him and quickly averted her eyes. "Bai Wei, please," Li Zhe took the dinner plate from her hand. In the bedroom, Xiao Jiao said loudly, "Sister Wei, come in." "Mr. Li, I'm leaving then." Bai Wei finished speaking and left in a hurry. Li Jie looked at her leaving back and smiled. This was the first time he saw Bai Wei so flustered. She didn't think that he was going to pull her into the bedroom, right? After closing the door, Li Jie put the dinner plate on the bed. There is a stack of soft and thin burritos on the dinner plate, as well as cucumber strips, shredded carrots, onion slices, lettuce, ham, tomato sauce and other side dishes. Eat quickly. Wait a minute, I've passed this level, Xiao Jiao said, staring at the phone screen. Then do you want me to feed you? Li Jie said with a half smile. Okay, Xiao Jiao said with a coquettish smile. Snapped. Ah, why did you hit me again? Eat it yourself, Li Jie said angrily. I couldn't even tell that what he said was ironic. This good-for-nothing girlfriend spends all day acting like a spoiled brat and is too lazy to do anything. Got it, Xiao Jiao was a little dissatisfied and put down the phone. She picked up a burrito and wrapped it with ham, cucumber strips, lettuce, tomato sauce, and other side dishes. She was about to eat it when she noticed Li Jie's eyes and stopped again. Xiao Jiao's favored burrito was handed to him. Honey, you eat first. Li Jie nodded and took the burrito. This Xiao Jiao is quite discerning. As he was eating the burrito, he suddenly remembered something. Jiao Bao, how are you preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination? Although Xiao Jiao is only a junior in college, Li Jie is going to let her take the exam first to familiarize herself with the environment in advance. In January next year, the 10-year postgraduate examination will be held. As soon as Li Jie mentioned the postgraduate entrance examination, Xiao Jiao felt a little pain in his head. It's okay, she said without confidence. After a pause, she added, isn't this just a try? I still have more than a year to prepare. Li Jie glanced at her. If she didn't go through the back door, she might not be able to pass the exam even if she prepared for 2 or 3 years, let alone 1 year. She has not passed level 4 yet. Which university do you want to go to? Shanghai Normal University. Okay, I will help you with your connections. However, you have to work harder and don't do too badly in the exam. Upon hearing that Li Jie would help her, Xiao Jiao immediately became confident. Husband, don't worry, I won't embarrass you. Maybe I can pass the exam myself. Li Jie didn't believe Xiao Jiao's rhetoric at all. Her fever would not last for a few days, and she would be lying flat again in 2 days. When you get to graduate school, you can't mess around like this anymore, do you understand? You will stay in school as a lecturer in the future, so don't let others mislead you. Li Jie said and brought over the second burrito she had wrapped. Xiao Jiao glanced at him, feeling a little annoyed. She hadn't taken a bite yet. After eating a few burritos made by Xiao Jiao, Li Jie also made one for her. It's almost time. It's time for me to go to the company. Will you go? Honey, you go ahead, I won't go, Xiao Jiao said vaguely while eating the burrito. This Xiao Jiao is really hot in 3 minutes. Li Jie shook his head in his heart. At almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the extended black Bentley drove into the underground parking lot of the office building where Kudong Group is located. After Li Jie, Bai Wei, and Huo Menjian got off the car, they walked towards the elevator. However, before walking a few steps, he saw His Higang and a woman in her 20s and 70s getting out of a white BMW together. The woman looks average, but has a good figure and a good temperament. The two were talking and laughing, and their relationship seemed very close. Seeing His Higang again, Li Jie found that compared to when he first joined the company more than half a month ago, he had become obviously more familiar and could dress up better. A carefully designed hairstyle, coupled with a well-fitting high-end suit, immediately improved the other person's image and temperament. As long as a man is tall enough, has good facial features, and dresses up carefully, he won't be too bad. Not to mention that his Hageng is tall and strong, and his appearance is considered very good among boys. It's just that he used to be unkempt, with messy hair and haphazardly matched clothes, which made his image and temperament look rather poor. To use a word that is very popular on the internet now, it is very loser. His Hageng turned around. After noticing Li Jie, Bai Wei, and Huo Menjian, the smile on his face suddenly froze, and his expression became very unnatural. The woman was stunned for a moment when she saw Li Jie and the others, then she smiled and said hello, Mr. Li. Her eyes focused on Huo Menjian. His Hageng also reacted and awkwardly greeted Li Jie and the others. Mr. Li, Secretary Bai, Secretary Huo. He really didn't want to meet Li Jie or Huo Menjian, especially Huo Menjian, under such circumstances. Li Jie also smiled at them, and then said to the woman, "You are from the marketing department of Qwen Technology, right? Your name is Ding." "Mr. Li, my name is Ding Li," the woman said proactively. Li Jie nodded, "Then let's go together." He had some impression of this Ding Li. She seemed to be a well-connected household, and her family had some power in the fire department. Basically every company will have some connections, including private companies, foreign companies, and Fortune 500 companies, mainly to expand the company's relationship network and to avoid trouble. The five of them walked into the elevator together, and His Hageng looked at Li Jie and Huo Menjian from time to time. He didn't know what Li Jie and Huo Menjian thought of him. Will he look down on him for finding a woman who is so much older than him and think that he is a softie? His Hageng was very worried about being discovered by others and attracting criticism from others. But it was always difficult for him to refuse Ding Li's request. Under her hard and soft tactics, he could only obey her command again and again. This made him feel very conflicted. For example, the high-end suit that His Hageng wore was a gift from Ding Li, and he refused to accept it at first. If he accepts a gift of more than 10,000 yuan, he will really be a freeloader. But Ding Li used both soft and hard tactics and reasoned with him first, saying that he worked in a company and needed a decent set of formal clothes. When she saw that reasoning didn't make sense, she showed her temper and became forceful. After much hard work, he found it hard to refuse, and finally compromised. Noticing the strange, normal, look in the female shopping guide's eyes, he wished there was a crack in the ground that he could get through. His Hageng also didn't want to have too much contact with Ding Li in the company, but again, he couldn't refuse. His Hageng had a headache when he thought that Ding Li had asked him to move to her place during the meal just now. If he really moves to Ding Li, eats her, uses her, what's the difference between that and being kept? I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 403. The elevator came to the floor where the Qwen Technology Marketing Department was located and stopped. Ding Li said hello to Li Jie, "Mr. Li, we're leaving first." She glanced at Huo Menjian again. No wonder His Hageng likes each other, this girl is indeed excellent. Li Jie also nodded to her and His Hageng. Ding Li and His Hageng left together. When the elevator went up to another floor, the elevator door opened again, and Li Jie also walked out of the elevator with Bai Wei and Huo Menjian. When they arrived at the office, Zhuang Qian, Lu Kaiyu, and the others saw Li Jie and the others coming and immediately stood up, "Mr. Li. These days, the president's office has expanded its manpower and now has more than 10 people." Li Jie nodded to them, motioned for them to sit down, and then said to Zhuang Qian, "Zhuang Qian, come in with me." As soon as he walked into the inner office, he saw a large pile of documents on the desk. During this week in the capital, Li Jie has been directing Zhuang Qian and Lu Kaiyu to handle company affairs remotely, but even if some matters are finished, he must look at them again. Some matters must be handled personally, such as large allocations that must have his signature. If it's particularly urgent, send a fax. If it's not particularly urgent, just wait until he comes back. Li Jie asked Zhuang Qian to sit down on the sofa, and then he also sat down opposite. There is a person named Ding Li in the marketing department of Qwen Technology. Do you know her situation? Ding Li? Ding Li from the advertising investment team. Zhuang Qian thought for a while and said, Ding Li has an average academic background, but her family has a bit of background. Her father is the city fire department, her mother works in the street office, and she also has an older brother. Elites like Zhuang Qian are indeed extraordinary. Kudong Group has 1,600 to 700 employees, and she knows all the information about the more important people among them. After listening, Li Zhe nodded, okay, I understand, you go out and do your work. By the way, call that intern named He Zhigang over. Okay, Zhuang Qian stood up. After Zhuang Qian left, Li Zhe returned to his desk, sat down, and started handling company affairs. Ding Li's family doesn't have a certain background. In the eyes of ordinary people, it can be said to be quite well established. Such a family can barely be considered a small local snake in Shanghai. Li Zhe really didn't expect that He Zhigang, a boy with a strong body but a weak stomach, was suitable for eating soft food. In the parking lot just now, he could tell at a glance that He Zhigang and Ding Li were definitely having an affair. Li Zhe said this not to look down on He Zhigang or to ridicule him. He really admired the other party. Eat soft food based on your ability, don't be arrogant. A girl like Ding Li is considered a second-generation girl. Her family is rich and powerful, but ordinary people cannot reach high places even if they want to. Just like many girls want to marry rich second-generation people, but how many of them can really do it? It was his luck that He Zhigang was attracted by Ding Li. If he could really marry Ding Li, he would not have to struggle for 20 years less, but would have to struggle for a lifetime less. He has worked hard all his life, but Ding Li can't help him. Besides, Ding Li's temperament, figure, and appearance are all very good. He Zhigang takes a big advantage in being able to eat this bowl of soft rice. In other words, Ding Li is a few years older than him, but so what? Isn't there a saying that a female junior holds a gold brick, and a female junior is as good as her mother? Don't think MRSI is being sarcastic. This sentence originally refers to the fact that the woman can take care of the man as meticulously as a mother. He Zhigang has a late maturing personality, and he needs a mature girlfriend to guide him so that he can avoid detours. If a man can meet a good woman, he can change his destiny. After He Zhigang met Ding Li, he changed dramatically. Li Zhe couldn't help but think of himself in his previous life. Like He Zhigang, he had a late maturing personality, so he took many detours. If he could meet a good girl, his fate might be very different. At this time, the office door was pushed open, and Lu Kai walked in with a cup of coffee. Husband, take a break and drink a cup of coffee. Li Zhe put down the document in his hand, smiled and waved to her, Xiao Yu, come here. When Lu Kai came over, he reached out and picked her up into his arms, letting her sit on his lap. She came at the right time. Work requires a balance between work and rest, and rhythm is very important. He Zhigang and Ding Li returned to the office together. When they saw the two walking in, Lu Ji, He Lu and others all showed strangely ambiguous looks. Many people in the office are smart people, and they are particularly good at making eye contact. He Zhigang and Ding Li, who go out and in together all day long, have long noticed that something is wrong. After He Zhigang sat down on his seat, Lu Ji, who was sitting next to him, immediately put his head over and whispered, Brother Gang, did you go to dinner with Sister Ding? He Zhigang glanced at him and hummed. Then you two are together? Brother Gang, you can do it. Lu Ji's eyes revealed ambiguity and envy. He really envied He Zhigang. Although Ding Li was not good looking, she had a great figure. It would be very comfortable to hold such a woman in his arms. He Zhigang frowned, don't talk nonsense, Sister Ding and I. He subconsciously wanted to deny it, but the two of them had been in contact with each other so many times, and it didn't matter, so he couldn't say it. Lu Ji smiled and said, "Brother Gang, I understand. You are worried about the influence, right? Don't worry, I'm very strict with my words, and I will keep it a secret for you." He's again glanced at him and said nothing. He has not yet decided how to deal with the relationship with Ding Li. Ding Li is nice and treats him well. But after all, there was a 5-year age difference between the two of them, and Ding Li had had several boyfriends before him. In addition, Ding Li also prefers to go to nightclubs and bars, which makes it difficult for him to accept. Seeing her dancing with other men made him feel a little green on his head. And the most important point is that He's Higang knows very well that he doesn't like Ding Li, he just likes to be with her. Just when He's Higang was having complicated thoughts, he suddenly heard manager Wu say, "He's Higang, go to the CEO to do something. Mr. Li is looking for you." Li Jie is looking for him. What does the other party want from him? Are you asking about what happened between him and Ding Li? Although Kudong Group has no order prohibiting office romance, it does not encourage it. Full of doubts, He's Higang stood up. He subconsciously glanced at Ding Li, and then found that Ding Li was also looking at him and smiled at him. After He's Higang left, Lu Ji, He Lu and others looked at each other with different expressions. Taking the elevator upstairs to the president's office, He's Higang knocked on the door gently. "Please come in," a pleasant female voice came from inside. It was Huo Menjian's voice. He's Higang opened the door and walked in, and saw a dozen beautiful girls dressed as secretaries sitting in the spacious office. Huo Menjian, Bai Wei, Zheng Shan, and several other girls he was familiar with were there. However, Lu Kaiyu was not there. Seeing him coming, Huo Menjian stood up with a smile, "Brother Gang, you are here, come with me." Seeing Huo Menjian again, He's Higang felt very complicated. He knew that there was no possibility for the two of them, but it was difficult for him to forget each other. He asked, "Mr. Li, what do you want from me?" Huo Menjian smiled and said, "I don't know either." She took He's Higang to the door of the inner office and knocked gently. After a while, Li Jie's voice came from inside, "Please come in." Huo Menjian opened the door and said, "Mr. Li, He's Higang is here." Li Jie's voice came from inside again, "Let him come in." Huo Menjian turned around and said to He's Higang, "Go in." He's Higang glanced at Huo Menjian and walked into the inner office. The office is very large, covering 50 or 60 square meters, and the decoration is extremely luxurious, with a magnificent desk, an oversized luxurious bookshelf, and a high-end sofa. Li Jie sat relaxedly behind his desk, while Lu Kaiyu stood beside him. He's Higang noticed that Lu Kaiyu's face was a little red and his expression was a little strange. He had also had sex before, so he was a veteran, and he immediately understood that these two people were not doing anything serious in the office. It's good to be the boss. If you have something to do as a secretary, it's fine. He's Higang couldn't help but feel envious. "Mr. Li, what do you want from me?" He was a little nervous subconsciously. "He's Higang, sit down." Li Jie stood up and asked He's Higang to sit down. Then he and Lu Kaiyu came to the sofa and sat down opposite him. "It's nothing, I just want to talk to you. How's it going? Are you getting used to it after coming to the company for a while?" "It's very good. My colleagues are very enthusiastic," He's Higang said a little cautiously. Li Jie chatted with He's Higang for a while and asked him, Yang Hao, and Cheng Xiang about their current situation, as well as things in class and school. It may be that the relationship between the two parties has become that of a superior and a subordinate. When chatting, He's Higang behaved very restrained and could not let go. He completely lost the carefree appearance before. Lu Kaiyu said with a smile that we are all classmates, so there is no need to be so restrained and let go. Li Jie also told him not to have so many worries. After listening to what the two of them said, his Higang became less restrained and relaxed a lot, but he was still very hesitant about speaking. Only when the status is roughly equal can there be true friendship. Otherwise, one party will always have low self-esteem and force each other to get along, which will only make both parties uncomfortable. After chatting for a while, Li Jie turned to Smile and said, "Zhigang, what's going on between you and that Ding Li in your office?" Zhigang felt nervous after hearing this and said quickly, "Mr. Li, don't get me wrong. Sister Ding and I have nothing to do with each other. It's just that she takes good care of me." Li Jie looked at him and smiled, "Okay, don't be nervous. I told you to just call me Jizzy in private like before." If it was just a guess before, now he could be sure that Zhigang and Ding Li were definitely having an affair. After a pause, he continued, "The company does not encourage office romance, but you are just an intern, so it doesn't matter." Lu Kaiu listened and said with interest, "What, brother Gang has a girlfriend?" When the girls commented privately on the boys in the class, Chen Mengting commented that with Zhigang's character, it would be difficult to find a girlfriend. Li Jie glanced at her and said with a smile, "Yes. It's a colleague of his in the office, named Ding Li. She is a few years older than him. She has good personal conditions and good family conditions." Ding Li. Lu Kaiu thought about it and had no impression. She doesn't have Zhuang Qian's ability to remember most of the group's employees. That's great. Find an older girlfriend who will love you. Zhigang looked slightly embarrassed and a little embarrassed. Ding Li and I haven't decided to be together yet. His words were a disguised admission, and they really had something to do with Ding Li. Li Jie looked at Zhigang and said seriously, "Zhigang, you must know how to seize opportunities. If you haven't confirmed the relationship yet, you must seize the time and confirm the relationship quickly. It's hard to meet a girl with Ding Li's conditions. If you miss it, you will definitely regret it in the future. Just because Ding Li is a few years older than you and has better conditions than you, don't worry about attracting gossip from others. Don't worry about other people's opinions. It's the last word that you do well yourself. If you find a girlfriend with good conditions, if others say a few sarcastic words, it's just envy and jealousy. On the contrary, if you don't get along well and can't even find a girlfriend, you will really be looked down upon." What he said was very serious. Having been in the society for more than 10 or 20 years, Li Jie knows very well that this society is extremely realistic. No one cares about where you get your money, only whether you have money or not. If you don't have money, no matter how good your character or your backbone is, you will still be looked down upon. After a pause, Li Jie said again, "Zhigang, I really treat you as a friend, that's why I say these things to you. Of course, this is my personal opinion. It's up to you whether you want to or not. Without Zhigang, he would not have had the chance to win the grand prize. Without the 15 million, he would probably miss one or two of Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiu, and Shen Xinyi. Therefore, Li Jie still wanted to help Zhigang, so he said this." After listening to his words, Zhigang fell into deep thought. He could tell that Li Jie was really doing it for his own good. After a while, Ji just came back from his thoughts. He wanted to say something, but glanced at Lu Kaiu and didn't say anything. When Li Jie saw this, he said to Lu Kaiu, "Kaiu, go and pour us 2 cups of coffee." Okay. Lu Kaiu stood up. She knew that Li Jie was just looking for a reason to get away from her. After Lu Kaiu went out, Li Jie looked at Zhigang and said, "Okay, if there's anything that's hard to say, you can say it now." Zhigang hesitated for a moment and expressed all his concerns. After hearing this, Li Jie couldn't help but shook his head inwardly. This Zhigang also dislikes Ding Li for having so many boyfriends. It's good that he doesn't dislike you. He was surprised that Ding Li would like Zhigang based on her conditions. I don't know what she fell in love with Zhigang. Zhigang, let me give you an example. Suppose there are two girls. One is average looking and has a bad temper, but has never had a boyfriend. The other is beautiful and considerate, but has had several boyfriends. Which one do you choose? His Higang showed hesitation on his face. Li Jie stood up with a smile and patted his shoulder. There is no perfect choice in the world. You must learn to make choices and give up. Okay, go and get busy. As a classmate and friend, he has said enough. His Higang also stood up from the sofa. He glanced at Li Jie and said reluctantly, Jizi, you asked me to choose, but why don't you choose? After hearing this, Li Jie gave him a funny look. Can you compare with me? I know, I'm not as rich as you. His Higang smiled, his tone full of self-deprecation. He doesn't have so many scruples about speaking anymore. That's right, you just don't have as much money as me. Li Jie nodded. Beauty itself is a scarce resource. You must have strength to possess it. Having money is strength, and being good looking is strength. If you are not handsome and have no money, why should a beauty like you? Besides, I have no choice. Do you know what I gave up for them? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 404. Li Jie gave up the chance of marriage for Xiao Qiao and the others. If he finds a girlfriend with a background, his future path will be smoother and more stable. His Higang walked to the door of the office, stopped again, turned around, and said hesitantly, Jizi, treat Menjian well, and don't let her down. Li Jie was stunned for a moment, then reacted and said funnily, Gangzi, what are you thinking about? You don't think I have any thoughts about Huo Menjian, do you? Don't you have any thoughts about her? His Higang said in surprise. Of course I have no idea. Li Jie's tone was very sure. At least he really doesn't have any thoughts about Huo Menjian now. Then why did you transfer her to the president's office? I transferred her to the CEO's office because I have thoughts about her? There are more than a dozen girls outside. Do I have thoughts about them all? Hearing what Li Jie said, His Higang immediately believed that the other party really had no intention of targeting Huo Menjian. Besides, there was no need for Li Jie to lie to him. It was he who misunderstood Li Jie and Huo Menjian. Li Jie glanced at His Higang and said, Stop thinking about Huo Menjian. When I was a freshman, I advised you to pursue her, but you didn't listen and didn't know how to seize the opportunity. Now it's too late to regret it. She is no longer something you can grasp. Relatively speaking, it is easier to chase beautiful girls when they are students, but once they enter the society, the difficulty of pursuing them will increase exponentially. They will find that boys with superior conditions are everywhere. I know I'm not worthy of Menyan. His Higang smiled mockingly. After a pause, he added, Jizi, if it's convenient, please take more care of Menyan. Li Jie glanced at him with a half-smile, Are you sure you want me to take care of Huo Menjian? Aren't you afraid that I will take care of her in bed? His Higang's expression changed slightly after hearing this. He was silent for a moment and said, That's okay, just take good care of her. He suddenly figured out that, just like Yang Hao said, Huo Menjian would find a boyfriend sooner or later. Rather than taking advantage of outsiders, it would be better to take advantage of his own brother. Besides, although Li Jie is a playboy, he is really kind to his girlfriend. Li Jie really didn't expect His Higang to say that, and couldn't help being surprised. Okay, I was just joking. You're not me, so you wouldn't understand. Having too many girlfriends is really a troublesome thing. It's so tiring to coax this one and that one. Who knows how hard he works day and night? His Higang was speechless when he arrived at Versailles. This guy is so damn good at pretending. A typical full man doesn't know that a hungry man is hungry. Jizi, I found you. He wanted to say that you are really shameless, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them out when he thought about the status gap between the two of them. Li Jie smiled and patted his Hegang on the shoulder. Gangzi, work hard. When you get rich, you will find that beautiful girls are more proactive than you think. He watched a test program in which the staff drove a 5 million supercar on the streets of Beijing late at night and struck up conversations with beauties on the roadside. As a result, I struck up a conversation with 10 people and succeeded in 7 of them. When the girls get on the bus, the staff will ask them why they dare to get on the bus. Aren't they afraid that he is a bad person? The answers given by these girls were very consistent. How could you be a bad person if you drive such a good car? If you are rich, you are a good person. When the staff changed to an ordinary car and tried to strike up a conversation, no one was successful. Don't think that just mainland girls worship money, in fact they are all the same. This program has also been tested in Seoul, Hong Kong Island, Berlin, and New York. The success rate of pickup conversations is only higher than that of the mainland. In Seoul, there is no failure, and the success rate is 100%. After His Higang left, Lu Kai walked in with 2 cups of coffee. He's gone. She put down her coffee and sat down on her desk. She is the only secretary who dares to sit on the boss's desk. Ye Lizhe picked up one of the cups of coffee and took a sip. Drinking is really a habit. He didn't like drinking coffee before, but Lu Kai often poured him coffee, and he gradually got used to it. Lu Kai also picked up the coffee and took a sip. What on earth were you two talking about? You can't say it in front of me. Li Jie glanced at Lu Kai. Her posture was very sultry. She was wearing a white shirt and a black hip-hugging skirt. She was sitting on the desk, showing off her curves. In particular, her pair of black stockings were slender and eye-catching. It's nothing, just. He didn't keep his Higang's secret and told Lu Kai everything. Lu Kai was a little dissatisfied after hearing this. You men are so chauvinistic. You boys are only allowed to indulge, but we girls are required to do it for the first time. Li Jie quit after hearing this. Xiao Yu, please don't expand the scope of attack. What do you mean by men? That's just His Higang's personal idea. He is a bit chauvinistic, but I am not. You are not. Lu Kai glanced at him with disbelief and contempt. You are more of a chauvinist. Otherwise, why would you be so happy after finding out that this was my first time? After a pause, she added, it's like a husky having fun. Lu Kai had long discovered that Li Jie was not very possessive. It was probably the first time for all 4 of her, Xiaoqiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Shen Xinyi. This is simply a necessary condition for becoming his girlfriend. He said he didn't care, but in his heart he cared very much. Li Jie was a little embarrassed. This long-legged guy didn't give him any face. Is there anything wrong with him wanting his girlfriend to be his first time? Huskies, how does he look like a husky? He only said this joke once, and she used it on him in turn. Li Jie stood up from his office chair and came to Lu Kai's side. Husband, what do you want to do? Lu Kai stared at him and said. She felt that Li Jie's eyes were dangerous. What? Li Jie smiled. Let you see what machismo is. Pa, after saying that, he slapped her buttocks. Husband, you, ugh. Li Jie didn't give Lu Kai a chance to speak at all. While kissing her roughly, he started to tear off her stockings. The two were intimate for a while, then he moved Lu Kai's body into the desk and raised her. Stop calling me husband, call me boss. After hearing this, Lu Kai bit her lip and gave him a cute look. This guy definitely has a special habit. One moment he calls her husband, the next moment he calls her boss, and the next moment he calls her. But at the critical moment, Li Jie's cell phone on the table suddenly rang. Husband, please answer the phone first, maybe it's something important, Lu Kai said softly. What a disappointment. Li Jie let go of Lu Kaiyu and picked up the mobile phone on the table. After he answered the call and listened to a few words, his expression suddenly became a little ugly. "Husband, what's wrong?" Lu Kaiyu asked with concern. "It's not a big deal, it's just a young actor who lacks discipline." Li Jie put down his phone and his expression returned to normal. "Who?" Lu Kaiyu asked curiously. Li Jie didn't answer. He opened the drawer of his desk, took out a pair of brand new stockings and threw them to Lu Kaiyu. "Xiao Yu, please put them on. I will accompany you later in the evening." Lu Kaiyu took the stockings and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed on her face. Although she is not that keen on driving practice, she still needs it. Li Jie hasn't accompanied her for more than 10 days. "Aren't you going to stay with Shen Xinyi tonight?" Seeing that his long-legged secretary was a little upset, Li Jie hugged her comfortingly. "We can go to the gym and do some exercise in the evening. Hey, it's hard work to have many girlfriends, coaxing this one and coaxing that one." After Lu Kaiyu had changed her stockings, Li Jie said to her, "Xiao Yu, call Wang Zhaining and ask her to come over." Wang Zhaining. Lu Kaiyu immediately understood that it was Wang Zhaining who made Li Jie angry. She had the impression that Wang Zhaining, the most beautiful female artist under Cuckoo Entertainment, was considered to be the leading actress. After Lu Kaiyu left, Li Jie returned to his desk and sat down, thoughtful. When Wang Zhaining was filming 20 again, she got closer to a young actor. After this incident was noticed by her assistant, she immediately reported it to the company. However, Zhang Jingxian didn't pay much attention to this matter. She didn't think Wang Zhaining would like the young actor. The other party is just a character actor and is not worthy of Wang Zhaining at all. It was Li Jie who personally intervened after hearing about it from Luan Xiaolin, and Zhang Jingxian took it seriously and went to talk to Wang Zhaining. When asked, Wang Zhaining admitted that she did have a crush on boys and hoped that the company would allow her to fall in love. This made Zhang Jingxian very angry. Zhang Jingxian also graduated from Shanghai Normal University, so she always regarded Wang Zhaining and Zhao Yahuan, two junior sisters from the same school, as direct relatives. Especially Wang Zhaining, who has excellent qualifications, is particularly valued. Cultivate her as a leading lady. Unexpectedly, Wang Zhaining would destroy her future during the most critical period of her rise. Even if an artist is speculating on scandals, they still have to find someone with a similar status. To find a role actor who is like a one-on-one is to lower one's worth. Not to mention that for female artists like Wang Zhaining who are famous for their good looks, their main audience of fans is men. Once their relationship is exposed, their popularity will definitely plummet, basically giving up any hope of becoming a top star. Zhang Jingxian gave Wang Zhaining a hard talk and warned her not to associate with him again. But Wang Zhaining obviously didn't listen to Zhang Jingxian. Not only did she meet the man again, she was also photographed by the media. Now there is news from the media, asking Cuckoo Entertainment if they want to buy the photos. After more than an hour, Li Jie had almost finished processing the pile of documents. At this time, there was a knock on the door. "Dong dong. Please come in." Wang Zhaining opened the door and walked in. She must have come from the set of The Ugly Girl Comes Back. She wore a white lace chiffon bare-shouldered dress and a white sun hat. She was youthful, beautiful, and beautiful. Her outfit was obviously a costume. "Mr. Li, are you looking for me?" Li Jie put down the documents in his hand and nodded to her, "Sit down." After Wang Zhaining sat down on the sofa, he looked her up and down, and couldn't help but secretly said, "What a pity. Her appearance is really no worse than Lu Yufi's." In fact, when the looks are at the level of Lu Yufi, Wang Zhaining, Sun Wanning, and Zhou Ziyu, it is difficult to tell them apart. It depends more on temperament and personal aesthetics. In Li Jie's opinion, Zhou Ziyu is undoubtedly the most outstanding. In terms of figure, appearance, and temperament, she scores the highest. When he saw her, He wanted to pull her to the bed. Followed by Liu Yufei and Wang Zhaining, it is difficult to distinguish between them. After all, they are so similar in appearance and temperament that they are almost sisters. As for Sun Wanning, she is certainly not bad, but compared to Liu Yufei and Wang Zhaining, there is still a slight gap. Zhaining, you should know why I'm looking for you, right? Wang Zhaining nodded, I know, because... Li Jie pressed his hand and interrupted her, I will tell you the company's handling results first, and don't contact the other party anymore. From now on, I can work with peace of mind, and the company can forget about it. It is impossible to let go of past mistakes. Even if Wang Zhaining honestly admits her mistakes now, the company will reduce her resources, suppress her for a year or two, and dampen her spirit. Wang Zhaining's expression changed after hearing this. Mr. Li, I cannot accept the result of this handling. Unacceptable. Li Jie immediately laughed after hearing this. Wang Zhaining met his gaze and said, I don't think I did anything wrong. There is no love ban in the company, and I have not delayed work because of emotional matters. I can balance my relationship and work. Li Jie looked at the aggressive Wang Zhaining and remembered her trembling appearance when they first met. People really can't get used to it. When Li Jie was a freshman in high school, he was in class 4, a regular class. The head teacher of his class at that time was very kind to the students. He got along with them like friends and was very protective of them. However, some students in the class caused trouble for the teacher. During self-study, other classes were quiet, but their class was noisy. A few tough guys even started fights with people outside the school, causing the teacher to be named and criticized by the school leaders. When I was in my second year of high school, my class teacher couldn't continue his job and resigned. When he left, the students in the class were very reluctant to leave, and a few thorns were clamoring for explanations from the school leaders. After the head teacher resigned, the school leaders hired a particularly strict old teacher to manage the thorny bunch in class 4. This time the old teacher didn't tolerate them anymore. If any student made a mistake, he would scold him for 1 or 2 classes, making the other student spit all over his face. At first, there were a few thorns in the class who cursed the old teacher behind his back, but within 1 semester they were controlled by the old teacher. When we talked about these 2 head teachers again in our senior year of high school, a few thorny people were very impressed by the old teacher, but they were disapproving of the first class teacher. At that time, Li Jie had only one thought in his mind, these guys just needed to be dealt with. Looking at Wang Zhaining at this time, he felt that she was the same, she just lacked education. The company was too good to her and took resources too easily, but she didn't take them seriously and didn't know how to cherish them. Bang, Li Jie slammed the table, the sound was so loud that it could be heard clearly even outside. Outside, Zhuang Qian, Bai Wei, and Huo Menjian looked at each other. This was the first time they had seen Li Jie get angry in the company for so long. I don't know what Wang Zhaining said to make him so angry. Zhang Jingxian's face, who was sitting aside, became even more ugly. In the room, Wang Zhaining was frightened by Li Jie and could not speak anymore. Li Jie looked at her and said, how does the company treat you? How does Mr. Zhang treat you? Wang Zhaining bit her lip and whispered, the company takes good care of me, and Mr. Zhang is also very good to me. Then this is how you repay the company and Mr. Zhang. Li Jie subconsciously raised his voice. There is no ban on dating in the company, but as an artist of the company, if something happens to you, do you need to report it to the company as soon as possible? And what kind of vision do you have? You found such a thing. Mr. Li, Wang Zhaining showed a very unconvinced expression. Li Jie sneered, you have to remember that the company doesn't owe you, it's you that owes the company. If the company hadn't given you resources and trained you, you would be nothing. He finally understood why Wang Zhaining didn't show up in the last life. Even with her personality, she couldn't be popular. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 405. Li Zhe paused and continued, you don't need to balance your relationship and work. Just go and talk about your relationship in peace. There are many people who want to get resources but can't get them. Wang Haining squeezed the corner of her clothes tightly and whispered a little aggrievedly, Mr. Li, I just want to fall in love. Is there anything wrong with that? Li Zhe became even more angry after hearing this. You are right, the company is wrong, I am wrong, I shouldn't have signed you. You humming want to fall in love early, why do you want to sign a contract? Why do you still want to be an artist? You don't even understand the simplest choices. It seems that the company takes good care of you. Wang Haining's eyes turned red after being scolded. She stood up and said, Mr. Li, I'll leave first. After saying that, she was leaving. Li Zhe frowned and said loudly, stop, do I let you go? There are no rules at all. Wang Haining bit her lip and sat back on the sofa. Li Zhe thought of Yang Function. If she hadn't just entered the industry when she was 15 or 16, she would have been slapped by the director. She would have been slapped 3 or 4 times in one play. She realized that it was not easy to be an actor. Bully. Maybe there will be no big Mimi later. People really can't be too smooth. If they are too smooth, they will lose immunity to many things. He left Wang Haining aside, picked up the document and continued reading. Wang Haining glanced at Li Zhe, who was working seriously, feeling a little on pins and needles. Time passed little by little, and Li Zhe quickly finished processing the remaining files. Then he created a new document and started writing. Almost an hour later, Huo Menjian knocked on the door and walked in. Mr. Li. She placed a bulging brown paper envelope on her desk. Li Zhe took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a thick stack of photos. He looked at the photo briefly and threw it on the table. Then he looked at Wang Haining, come here and see what this is. Wang Haining came to the desk, picked up the photos on the table and looked at them, her expression suddenly changed. 2 well-covered young men and women walked into a restaurant together and found a remote seat to sit down. They took off their sunglasses and masks and laughed and chatted while eating. In the photo, the woman can clearly see that it is Wang Haining, but the man cannot see his face clearly due to the shooting angle. Li Zhe looked at Wang Haining and sneered, why was it so coincidental that the 2 of you met in private and were photographed by the media? The picture was so clear and the angle was so good. Use your dizzy head and think about what's going on. What did you find? After saying that, he waved his hand and said, okay, you can leave now. Wang Haining held the photo tightly and looked at Li Zhe, who stopped talking to her. Mr. Li, I'm sorry, I'll give it to the company. All right. Li Zhe interrupted her and stopped her from talking anymore. Don't say anything, just go. By the way, take these photos away too. Wang Haining took the photo and left in despair. As soon as she went out, Zhang Jingxian knocked on the door and walked in. As soon as she came in, she apologized and said, Mr. Li, I'm sorry. I'm responsible for Wang Haining's matter. I didn't manage it well. Li Zhe glanced at her and said unceremoniously, you must be responsible for this matter. After a pause, he added, however, I also have a responsibility. The company's management of its artists is still too lax. Zhang Jingxian apologized again and said, Mr. Li, I'm sorry. Li Zhe waved his hand, okay, let's sit down and talk. He asked Zhang Jingxian to sit down on the sofa, and then asked Huo Menjian to pour 2 cups of coffee. How is the progress of 20 again? Back to 20 is the first time Wang Haining takes the lead and plays the leading role in a movie. Previously, Uncensored was an ensemble cast, and in Escape from the Sea of Sharks, she was only the 4th female lead. More than half of the post-production has been completed, and it is expected to be completed before the year, Zhang Jingxian said. After hearing this, Li Zhe nodded. After the post-production is completed, don't schedule the film yet. Put this film on the back burner. Then, he asked, where is the filming progress of The Ugly Girl's Makeover? Almost a third of the filming is already done. Replace Wang's Haining, call Naza back from South Korea, and let her star. Naza has been training in South Korea for a year, and the basics should be pretty much laid out. When Zhang Jingxian heard this, her expression changed slightly. The finished film was suppressed, and even the character who had been filming for more than a month had to be replaced. Li Zhe obviously wanted to completely hide Wang's Haining and not give him any chance. Mr. Li, the movie has been started for more than a month. If we change the starring role now, the loss will be huge. Why don't we educate Wang's Haining and give her another chance? She was extremely optimistic about Wang's Haining's qualifications. Even if she hated her for not living up to expectations, she still wanted to help her get another chance. Li Zhe shook his head and said, the company has trained her as a leading actress, taking good care of her and providing constant resources, but she does this kind of thing. She must be dealt with seriously and killed as a warning, otherwise there will be no control over other artists. So, no matter how big the loss is, we still have to replace people. The company treats Wang's Haining very well and gives her more resources than Luan Xiaolin. Luan Xiaolin had devoted herself to Li Zhe's lover, but what had Wang's Haining done? Luan Xiaolin was very dissatisfied with this and complained a lot. Seeing that Li Zhe had made up his mind, Zhang Jingxian sighed softly in her heart, Mr. Li, I understand. Li Zhe glanced at Zhang Jingxian and said, you don't have to feel too sorry for her. She chose her own path. In addition, there is a better candidate for the company's leading actress. It's still ready-made and doesn't need to be cultivated. Is it Yang Function? Zhang Jingxian asked curiously. She knew that Li Zhe was very optimistic about Yang Function. No, she has great potential, but she still needs to be polished and cultivated. Regardless of the fact that this year Yang Function was rated as one of the 4 little actresses along with Liu Yufei, Huang Shenji, and Wang Luodan, but she is the least famous among the 4. Now Liu Yufei is the top star, Huang Shenji's halo of star girl has not completely dissipated, and Wang Luodan is even more popular and will win the 3rd Golden Eagle Goddess next year. Li Zhe paused and continued, I met Liu Yufei when I went to the capital this time. Liu Yufei, Zhang Jingxian was extremely surprised. She really didn't expect that the person Li Zhe was talking about would be Liu Yufei. To say who is the most popular young actress right now, it must be Liu Yufei. But Liu Yufei is not easy to poach. Many companies such as Fahrenheit and Tangren wanted to sign her before, but they failed to do so. She has a reputation in the industry as being difficult to deal with. Is she willing to come to our company? I'm very sure, Li Zhe said. In order to poach people, he even sacrificed his appearance. Seeing Li Zhe's confident look, Zhang Jingxian sighed softly in her heart. If Liu Yufei could be poached, it would certainly be a good thing for the company, but it would not be a good thing for Wang's Haining. She and Liu Yufei are very similar in appearance and temperament, and the company is training her as Liu Yufei's second choice. And if Liu Yufei comes over, her value will be negligible, and she will really be hidden in the snow. Li Zhe then asked, which company does that actor belong to? A young actor dares to make fun of the idea of a leading star of cool entertainment. It is simply a desperate act. Just an ordinary artist from a small agency. Zhang Jingxian's face suddenly turned ugly when she mentioned the actor. She put so much effort into cultivating her, only to be ruined by a young actor. Tell that company to ban him. Li Zhe's voice was cold. He is just a character actor with limited value. It is impossible for the small agency to offend a large company like Cuckoo Entertainment just to protect him. And even if the company wanted to protect him, it couldn't. Cuckoo Entertainment put out words to block the other party, and no crew would dare to use him again in the future. The young actor was a little too smart. He wanted to get out of the industry by making scandals, but he didn't think that he could afford to offend a big company. Zhang Jingxian nodded to express her understanding. Even if Li Jie didn't say anything, she wouldn't be able to let him go. Li Jie looked at Zhang Jingxian and continued, "Manager Zhang, from now on, you can leave the company's artist management business alone and focus more on the company's development. I am planning to set up a new company to be responsible for the management affairs of artists and anchors under Cuckoo Entertainment and Kudong Company." "Okay, Mr. Li, I understand." Zhang Jingxian knew that Li Jie was dissatisfied with her, and breaking up the artist management business was a disguised punishment for her. However, she also discovered that she was really not suitable for managing artists, so it was a relief to hand over the artist management affairs. Li Jie's separation of artist management affairs is not to punish her and reduce the power in her hands, as Zhang Jingxian thought, but to strengthen the management of his artists and anchors. In the future, when the company signs new people, they will not directly provide resources. Instead, they will start with roles and supporting roles. They will be tested first and then considered whether to train them. Li Jie now understands the idea of capital a little bit. Whether the artist himself has potential is very important, but in comparison, obedience is the most important. People who are disobedient and do not follow discipline must not be hired, let alone reused. Artists like 4,000 years are good artists. 4,000 years of black spots are nothing more than the work of a word. As for plastic surgery, it really can't be considered a black point. Is there any star in the future who doesn't have plastic surgery? But they don't fall in love, don't spread scandals, and focus on being an idol and pursuing a career. Compared with those artists who are prone to collapse, artists like 4,000 years are so rare. For capital, these are good employees and worthy of training. By the way, where are you now after 4,000 years? She seems to be from Sichuan province, so we could send a talent scout to look for her. After Zhang Jingxian left, Li Jie sat back at his desk and continued writing. This time he went to the capital to meet Yang Fengxian, which reminded him of something. Although Yang Fengxian has the reputation of being one of the four beauties of Sword and Sword, it was not Sword and Sword 3 that really made her famous, but the palace. The two popular Qing dynasty dramas Palace and Step by Step will start filming next year. I don't know if Yang Fengxian can still get Palace, but even if she can get it, Li Jie will not let her film it. He really didn't like the scene where she wore braids. Especially in Jingxin, Marty Ruoxi kept repeating, "I cherish the emperors of Qin and Han, who are slightly less talented in literature, the ancestors of Tang and Song, who are slightly less coquettish." The scene where he comes to film Kangxi's flattery is even more touching. People feel nauseated. Kang Meizi, who couldn't even handle Wu Sangui and had to rely on his youth to defeat him, was not worthy of Taiju's poems. There are so many time travel themes, so I couldn't shoot anything, so I just focused on the braid scene. Li Jie is planning to shoot 3 or 4 time travel dramas next year, and he will finish filming the ancient time travel puppet show first. The Beloved Concubine of Two Worlds, the story of the Crown Princess's promotion, love travels through 1,000 years, and then refer to the plots of Palace and Step by Step to make a Three Kingdoms version of the Palace battle drama. Kangxi had many sons, including the eldest elder brother, the second elder brother, the fourth elder brother, the eighth elder brother, the 14th elder brother, etc. And Cao also had many sons, Cao Ang, Cao Pai, Cao Zhang, Cao Ji, Cao Chong, and so on. Anyway, the highlight of this kind of ancient puppet show is that the time-traveling girl falls in love with a few elder brothers and young men, and the dynasty is not the focus at all. Besides, in terms of popularity, the Three Kingdoms are no worse than our great Qing dynasty. Li Jie is currently writing the outline of the script for the Three Kingdoms version of Palace. As usual, he writes a synopsis of the story and leaves it to the editorial team to fill in the specific content. Wang Haining walked out of the company's office building in despair. She didn't want to believe that he would betray her. But how to explain this photo? Wang Haining was very confused. She offended the company because of him and will probably be buried in the cold. But she has no regrets about this. But if she really sees the wrong person, and the other person doesn't like her at all and is just using her, then she will really become a joke. Sisters Haining, where are you going? Hearing the voice of assistant Xiaoying, Wang Haining came back to her senses and found that she had already passed the parking space. She walked back to the parking space of the nanny car, opened the rear door and got in. She said to her assistant Xiaoying, "Xiaoying, let's go back to the set. No matter what, work can't be delayed. Even if the company just hides her, she will still work hard to film the last part of the ugly girl's makeover." Assistant Xiaoying glanced at her and said hesitantly, "Sisters Haining, you don't need to go to the set." "What, no filming today?" "It's not that we stopped filming, it's that you were replaced." "You have been replaced?" Wang Haining couldn't help being stunned, feeling very empty in her heart. She was mentally prepared for being hidden, but she never expected that the character she had been filming for more than a month would be replaced. She had been preparing for this drama for 2 or 3 months, and had been working hard on filming for more than a month, and now it suddenly had nothing to do with her. Xiaoying looked at Wang Haining, who looked disappointed and felt a little uncomfortable. Although the company arranged for her to follow Wang Haining, the two had been together for almost a year, so how could they not have any feelings at all? Not to mention that Wang Haining treated her very well and treated her like a sister. She reported to the company not because she wanted to betray Wang Haining, but because she didn't want to see her take the wrong path. That boy is not good enough for her. "Sisters Haining, I have to leave too. I can't follow you anymore." Wang Haining came to her senses and asked, "The company arranged for you to work with other artists?" After a pause, she smiled self-deprecatingly, "That's right. I've been hidden in the snow, so I don't need an assistant." "Will the nanny car and apartment allocated to me also be taken back?" Xiaoying looked at her and couldn't help but said, "Sisters Haining, why don't you go to Mr. Li again, be subdued, say good things, stop being so stubborn, there should be a chance." Wang Haining listened and shook her head lightly. She had already seen that Li Jie was determined to hide her. Even if he loses millions to change roles, how can he change his mind so easily? However, she doesn't blame the company or Li Jie. The company treated her extremely well, but she felt sorry for the company and its training. "Xiaoying, please take me back to the apartment one last time. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 406. The artists of Cuckoo Entertainment all live in a high-end community near the Bund. The accommodation conditions are uniform, a 1-bedroom and 1 living room with a fine decoration of about 60 square meters. Living for free, all expenses are borne by the company. In addition to free accommodation, the company also provides special nanny cars, drivers, assistants, makeup artists, costume designers, and agents for emerging artists like Wang Haining. A small team of 6 is dedicated to her service. For newcomers who have just signed a contract, the company also provides dormitories, commuter buses, food subsidies, living allowances, and shared makeup artists, costume designers and agents. In short, in terms of artist welfare, Cuckoo Entertainment is definitely top-notch in the industry. A black Mercedes-Benz SUV drove into the community and stopped in the parking lot. After Wang Haining and her assistant Xiaoying got out of the car together, they took a look at the Mercedes-Benz nanny car. From now on, this nanny car has nothing to do with her. This Mercedes-Benz SUV, although it is only a C-Class, costs about 400,000. Xiaoying looked at Wang Haining and said a little worriedly, "Sisters Haining, can I accompany you upstairs for a while?" Wang Haining shook her head lightly, "No, you can go back." After a pause, she added, You are no longer my assistant. I'd better stay with you for a while, Xiaoying insisted. While they were arguing, a red convertible Porsche Boxster drove over and stopped in the parking space next to it. Wearing a black leather jacket, black pants, a pair of black short boots, and a pair of big sunglasses, Luan Xiaolin stepped out of the sports car coolly. A girl dressed as a bodyguard also got out of the passenger seat. Since finishing filming The Witch, Luan Xiaolin has been relatively free, occasionally answering announcements, and resting most of the other time. She also went to Sanya and Thailand. When she was in Sanya, she even stayed in Lijia's Sea View Villa for a few days. There were also external film offers to find her, but they were all for 2 female and 3 female roles. She had already starred in a quasi-blockbuster like The Witch, so why would she act as a co-star for others? Wouldn't that be lowering her own worth? Besides, Luan Xiaolin is not short of money now. Lijia gives her tens of thousands of pocket money every month, works hard to please him in bed, and even gets a sports car. Her current Porsche is the best car owned by Cuckoo Entertainment's artists. As soon as Luan Xiaolin got off the sports car, she noticed the Mercedes-Benz SUV nanny car parked aside, along with Wang Zhaining and Xiaoying. As the first sister of the company, she was extremely well informed. She already knew that Wang Zhaining had been hidden, and even the role that had been filmed for more than a month had been replaced. Luan Xiaolin has always disliked Wang Zhaining and regarded her as her biggest opponent. She was so fond of Lijia in bed, but she only got one crazy lottery and one witch. In the dramas Uncanny, Escape from the Sea of Sharks, and unfortunately, she did not have many roles and could only be regarded as a supporting role. Wang Zhaining, on the other hand, paid nothing but continued to have resources. She starred in 3 dramas including Uncanny, Back to 20, and The Ugly Girl's Makeover. Escape from the Shark Sea would have starred Wang Zhaining if that little bitch Nini hadn't interfered. In addition, Lijia also inadvertently revealed that he would also let the other party star in a major urban drama. Why? Why can't she, Wang Zhaining, get so many resources for nothing? And why does everyone prefer her? Lijia is optimistic about her, and Zhang Jingxian regards her as a direct descendant and trains her. Luan Xiaolin knew very well that if she hadn't fallen in love with Lijia, she would have been marginalized in the company. Just look at Huo Menjian and Yang Hao. After learning that Wang Zhaining liked a young actor, Luan Xiaolin was shocked at first, and then left. She had always been worried that Wang Zhaining would also be interested in climbing into Lijia's bed. Luan Xiaolin was confident that she could win over Nini, but she didn't have much confidence that she could win over Wang Zhaining. It's good now that Wang Zhaining foolishly destroyed her own future and offended the company for a man, which made her laugh to death. Once the big enemy is gone, no one can threaten her position as the #1 sister in the company. Luan Xiaolin took off her sunglasses in front of the bodyguards Wang Zhaining and Xiaoning, and greeted them with a smile, Zhaining. In the past, she never said hello to Wang Zhaining when they met. She was the first lady in the company, how could she bow to the other party? But who makes her feel good now? Wang Zhaining glanced at Luan Xiaolin and just nodded without speaking. She didn't have the time to pay attention to Luan Xiaolin now. Who are you pretending to be innocent and arrogant? Luan Xiaolin looked at Wang Zhaining and smiled disdainfully. This is a lesson learned from the past. She warned herself in her heart that she must hug Lijia's thigh tightly and never let any bullshit love get to her head. Besides, which man can compare with Lijia? This is the youngest billionaire on the Forbes list. The little actor Wang Zhaining likes is not even worthy of carrying Lijia's shoes. I really have no vision at all. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a sense of superiority in her heart. Luan Xiaolin took her eyes away from Wang Zhaining and left with her bodyguard. She won't be able to live in this community for long. She has already taken out a loan to buy a 127 square meter 2-bedroom apartment in Beijianwan Mansion and will move there soon. In the end, Wang Haining did not twist Xiaoying, and went upstairs with her back to the apartment. Taking out the key and opening the door, Wang Haining looked at the furnishings in the apartment, sighed softly in her heart, and then began to pack her things. Xiaoying also helped her clean up. Wang Haining doesn't have many things, mainly clothes, cosmetics, and some daily necessities. A large suitcase and a small suitcase are enough. Many of her clothes are arranged by the company and cannot be taken away. She will stay here for the last night tonight, and she will move back to the school dormitory early tomorrow morning. Xiaoying looked at her and couldn't help but say, "Sisters Haining, is it worth it for a man?" Wang Haining was silent and didn't speak. If it had been before, she would have said it was worth it without hesitation, but now she is a little unsure. Ding dong. Ding dong, suddenly the doorbell rang. Xiaoying went to open the door and found that the person who came was Zhao Yahuan. Zhao Yahuan walked in and looked at Wang Haining, her face full of concern and worry. "Haining, I heard that you offended Mr. Li and was, by the company. Is it true?" Wang Haining glanced at her and forced a smile. "It's true, I was hidden by the company." "Because of what? Is it because you are in love?" "Haining, why don't you just break up with the other person? Don't ruin your future just because of a man. Go and soften your words to Mr. Li, he likes you so much, so there should be a chance." Zhao Yahuan talked a lot. Seeing that Wang Haining remained silent, she sighed helplessly. "Haining, you are just too stubborn." She looked at the things she had packed, and there were 2 suitcases, one large and one small. "Haining, are you moving away? I've been hidden in the snow, so it's hard to live here anymore." "I'm going to move back to the school dormitory," Wang Haining said calmly. Moving back to the dormitory, Zhao Yahuan raised his voice in surprise when he heard this. "How can you live in a 4-bedroom like a dormitory? Besides, the conditions in the old Sui campus are already poor. Haining, how about you move to my place? We will live in the same house." Wang Haining took a deep look at Zhao Yahuan and declined with a smile. "Yahuan, thank you. But, no need." After a pause, she added, "Didn't we all live in dormitories before? There was nothing we couldn't live in." Although Wang Haining has a bit of a love brain, it doesn't mean that she is really brainless. She had already seen that Zhao Yahuan did not care about her as much as he appeared. In fact, Wang Haining's guess was correct. The concern and worry on Zhao Yahuan's face were all fake. Her acting skills now are not even the slightest bit better than on the screen. There is fierce competition for resources among artists in the same company. How can they be as good as sisters? Not to mention that Zhao Yahuan was extremely jealous of Wang Haining. The company cultivated Wang Haining very well and provided her with constant resources, but she could only pick up the remaining resources from the other party. For example, in The Ugly Girls Comeback, Wang Haining played the heroine, but she could only play the second villain. Also, she and Wang Haining were both Zhang Jingxian's junior sisters, but Zhang Jingxian only favored Wang Haining but did not pay attention to her at all. Wang Haining has better qualifications than her, but she also works hard, so why should she be treated differently? Seeing that Wang Haining actually contradicted the company for a man, but was hidden by the company, and the role that had been filmed for more than a month was replaced, Zhao Yahuan was secretly happy and indescribably happy. Having such a good opportunity but not cherishing it, instead ruining your own future, is a fool. Looking at Wang Haining, Zhao Yahuan was filled with awe of the company. Their fate is completely in the hands of the company. If the company praises you, you will become famous. If the company does not praise you, you will be nothing. Once they are hidden, it will be like Wang Haining's career in the entertainment industry is completely ruined. Ding dong. Ding dong. At this time, the doorbell rang again. Xiaoying got up and opened the door again. "Mr. Zhang. The person coming this time is Zhang Jingxian." "Mr. Zhang, you're here." Seeing Zhang Jingxian coming, Wang Zhaining and Zhao Yahuan both stood up quickly. "Sister, I'm sorry," Wang Zhaining said apologetically in a low voice. The person she felt most sorry for was Zhang Jingxian. This senior sister took extraordinary care of her. In fact, Wang Zhaining had already apologized once before in the CEO's office, and Zhang Jingxian didn't give her any good looks at that time. However, this time Zhang Jingxian looked at her and just sighed. She turned to Xiaoying and said, "Xiaoying, go back first. The company has an artist trained in South Korea. She will come back tomorrow. You can follow her from now on." Xiaoying couldn't help but say, "Mr. Zhang, can't you give Sisters Haining another chance?" Zhang Jingxian did not answer her, but just said, "Follow the company's arrangements." After saying that, she said to Zhao Yahuan, "Yuhuan, you should also go back. Zhaining and I will chat alone." "Okay, senior sister," Zhao Yahuan nodded and prepared to leave with Xiaoying. Zhang Jingxian thought of something and stopped her again. "By the way, Yuhuan, I have something to tell you in advance. Soon I will no longer be responsible for the company's artist management affairs, so be prepared." Hearing what she said, Zhao Yahuan, Wang Zhaining and Xiaoying were all surprised. "Why?" Zhao Yahuan couldn't help but ask. "Sister, I'm sorry, it was me who hurt you," Wang Zhaining said guiltily. She didn't expect that Zhang Jingxian would be implicated. Zhang Jingxian smiled at Wang Zhaining and said, "It has nothing to do with you. Mr. Li wants to separate the company's artist management affairs and manage them uniformly with the artist management affairs of Kudong Company." Zhao Yahuan left with Xiaoying with a heavy heart. She originally thought that without Wang Zhaining, Zhang Jingxian would definitely tilt resources towards her. Who would have expected that Zhang Jingxian would be reduced from power and no longer responsible for artist management affairs? It's all Wang Zhaining's fault. The senior sister was so kind to her, but she deceived the senior sister. When she arrived at the new agency, she didn't know what her situation would be like. After Zhao Yahuan and Xiaoying left, Zhang Jingxian motioned to Wang Zhaining to sit down on the sofa, and then she also sat down opposite. "Sister, I'm sorry," Wang Zhaining apologized again. Zhang Jingxian waved her hand. "Zhaining, you know, the person you are most sorry for is not me, but Mr. Li." Wang Zhaining looked surprised after hearing this. Zhang Jingxian glanced at her and then said, "Mr. Li is the most optimistic about you. He thinks your potential is no worse than Lu Yufi's. He wants to train you to become a first-tier star in Asia or even an international superstar. Originally, after filming this drama, the company will arrange a TV series for you, targeting the entire Asia. I have read the script. It is extremely exciting. Once it is filmed, it will definitely become popular in Asia." At this point, she shook her head and said, "In the end, you were so unlucky." Wang Zhaining bit her lip and said, "I failed Mr. Li's attention and training, and—" "All right." Zhang Jingxian interrupted her, "The opportunity has been missed. It's too late to say anything now." After a pause, she sighed softly, "You really don't know how to cherish me. The entertainment industry is full of chaos. There is no way you can take resources without paying the price. Look at which artist does not need to attend dinner parties or accompany drinks. That means Mr. Li is protecting you and does not allow you to attend dinner parties or accompany drinks. Zhaining, do you know? There was a big shot who fell in love with you before, but Mr. Li didn't hesitate to offend him and helped you to stop him. In the end, this is how you repay the company and Mr. Li." Zhang Jingxian was surprised that Li Jie didn't lurk with Wang Zhaining. It would have been absolutely impossible for any other boss to let Wang Zhaining go. How can there be such a good thing if you just want to get resources without giving anything? What can a pretty girl give? There is only the body. It was definitely Wang Zhaining's luck to meet a boss like Li Jie. It's a pity that she doesn't know how to cherish it. After listening to Zhang Jingxian's words, Wang Haining could no longer control her emotions, her eyes turned red, and she cried. People learn to cherish only after they lose it, and the same goes for Wang Haining. Thinking of the past, the company, and Li Zhe's care and protection for her, she really regretted it. Zhang Jingxian looked at Wang Haining and shook her head. If I had known today why I had to cry in the first place, what is the use of crying now? She glanced at the two suitcases, one large and one small, on the floor. Are you moving out? Wang Haining nodded, sobbed, and said, well, I want to move back to school. That's fine. You should study hard from now on. Retiring from the entertainment industry may not be a bad thing. After saying that, Zhang Jingxian stood up. Before leaving, she glanced at Wang Haining again. Even if a beautiful girl like Wang Haining does not enter the entertainment industry, she will inevitably have to pass the unspoken rules when entering the workplace. It's the same in any industry, if you want to get something, you have to pay first. In the evening, after Li Zhe got off work from the company and returned to the villa, he did not take Xiao Qiao and the four of them to the Zijiao Hotel for dinner as usual. Instead, he chose to cook. He cooked with the four of them, Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi. Fortunately, the kitchen is big enough, otherwise it would really not be able to accommodate 5 people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 407. When the dishes are put on the table, everyone feels a sense of accomplishment. Especially Xiao Qiao felt a sense of accomplishment. She cooked 3 of these dishes. Of the 12 dishes, Li Zhe made 4, Zhou Ziyu made 3, and Xiao Qiao made 3. Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xian, 1 or 2, each symbolically cooked a dish. When cooking 3 dishes, Xiao Qiao is considered the main force. In order to prevent Zhou Ziyu from becoming too young, she has recently begun to work hard on cooking, and her cooking skills have greatly improved. Honey, how do you like my cooking? Xiao Qiao smiled and put a piece of ribs into Li Zhe's bowl, looking at him expectantly. Braised pork ribs are a tough dish. Li Zhe looked at her with a smile, picked up the ribs and tasted them. Well, it tastes very good. He was not coaxing Xiao Qiao. The braised pork ribs she cooked were really good, and the taste was no worse than Zhou Ziyu's. I'm very talented, Xiao Qiao said quite proudly. As she said that, she glanced provocatively at Zhou Ziyu. Talent and stuff are just Xiao Qiao bragging about herself. The truth is that she secretly enrolled in a cooking class and practiced hard for a month. Braised pork ribs is one of her favorite dishes. Although Xiao Qiao doesn't care about studying or taking the postgraduate entrance examination, he is extremely concerned about competing for favor. Beauty care, exercise and body shaping, hard training in cooking, and she is also learning yoga, flower arrangement, painting, piano, pottery, etc. She has signed up for a lot of various training classes. As long as Zhou Ziyu can do it, she will do it. If the other party can't, she will also do it. She vows to outshine him. Xiao Qiao is doing this secretly, preparing to make a blockbuster in front of Li Zhe. However, she is still at the stage where she has learned a little bit of everything but can't use anything. That means you can show off your cooking skills a little bit. For the sake of fairness, Li Zhe tasted the dishes cooked by Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi in turn, and all of them approved of them. If you want the harem to be stable, fairness is very important, at least on the surface. You can't be too biased towards anyone. Li Zhe picked up the red wine, poured a glass of wine for each of the 4 of them, and then took the lead in picking up the wine glass. Come, let's all have a drink together. Xiaojiao, Zhouziu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi looked at each other and also picked up their wine glasses. Boom! The five people's wine glasses touched together. Li Jie took a sip of wine, put down the glass, looked at Xiaojiao and the four of them, and felt a little relieved. They had been getting along in harmony recently. In fact, all the peace in the harem was an illusion, all made for him to see. In private, Xiaojiao and Zhouziu often fought with each other, and the four of them basically didn't speak to each other. Ruanjing, Lu Ji, Lu Yingqi and other bodyguards would not tell Li Jie about this kind of harem dispute. Li Jie also suffered from a common problem among men. He confidently thought that he could handle the harem, but in fact he was kept in the dark without realizing it. He filled the 4 glasses of wine for them, then looked at Xiaojiao and said, "Jiao Bao, have you been very free recently?" Xiaojiao retorted coquettishly, "I don't have any free time. I have to study, prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination, and..." She added in her mind, she also needs to learn flower arranging, painting, piano, and a lot of things. It's very busy and hard, okay. Li Jie said funnily, "Okay, you can be very busy if you don't have time." After a pause, he continued, "I am going to invest in a beauty salon for you. Since you are so busy, Jiao Bao, don't get involved." When Xiao Jiao heard this, he became anxious. "No, I want to participate too." "Aren't you busy?" Li Jie teased her with a smile. "I want to participate even if I'm busy." "Okay, then I'll count you in." Li Jie said seriously, "I own 52% of the shares in this beauty salon, and the 4 of you alone own 12%. Zhouziu and Xiaojiao always do beauty care outside. This is not a long-term solution. Instead of letting outsiders earn their money, it is better to open a beauty salon by themselves. Besides, it would make him feel more at ease. It makes me upset when I hear about going out for beauty treatments and hairdressing." "Husband, how big should the scale be?" Lu Kaiyu asked. Li Jie looked at her and said, "Make it as large as possible, and the more advanced the equipment, the better. Don't worry about money. After all, making money is not the purpose of this store, the main purpose is to serve you." Although he said that making money is not the purpose, as long as this beauty salon is opened, it can just sit back and collect money. Kudong has so many artists, anchors, big bosses and proprietresses running stores, who dares not to come and patronize them? Just doing internal business is enough to make a lot of money. Li Jie plans to make this beauty salon take a high-end route and mainly receive celebrities and entertainers. And it only deals with female customers and does not accept male customers. Of course, the big boss is an exception. Xiaoyu, Xiaowu, the 4 of you find time to inspect the location and store of the beauty salon together. Inspecting stores mainly depends on Lu Kaiyu and Zhouziu. Xiaojiao and Shen Xinyi have too little social experience. Lu Kaiyu and Zhouziu listened and nodded. Xiaojiao smiled and asked, "Husband, what is the name of the beauty salon?" "You 4 together." Li Jie originally wanted to say that the 4 of you can just discuss it together. But then I thought that if they were allowed to discuss it, they would definitely start arguing again. "Let's call it Yu Yanfang," he immediately made the final decision. The meal was extremely harmonious and pleasant. Xiaojiao, Zhouziu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xian talked to each other and discussed the details of the beauty salon with Li Jie. They are very concerned about opening a beauty salon. After all, this is the first business Li Jie has assigned to them, and they will be the proprietresses from now on. Li Jie poured wine for them frequently. After one meal, they drank 3 bottles of red wine. After finishing the meal, Xiaojiao was red-faced and drunk on the table, talking nonsense. Shen Xian's face was flushed, leaning on the chair with blurred eyes, and he was obviously drunk. Lu Kaiyu's pretty face was rosy and she was also a little drunk. Only Zhouziu's cheeks were only slightly red, her expression was clear, And she was not drunk at all. Looking at Xiao Jiao and Shen Xinyi who were drunk, Li Jie smiled inwardly. It's good to be drunk. Yes, he had deliberately made them drink before. A breakup was better than a wedding. Li Jie didn't want to defeat many with a small number, so he could only win over one or two of them. In this way, you can advance, attack, retreat or defend. Li Jie turned his eyes away from Xiao Jiao and the others and noticed Zhou Ziyu looking at him with a smile. That look seems to be saying, now you got your wish, can you breathe a sigh of relief? This little lover of his dared to underestimate him, and he wanted to take care of her for a while. Li Jie picked up Xiao Jiao from the table, and then said to Zhou Ziyu and Lu Kaiyu, I will send Xiao Jiao back to the room, and you too, Shen Xian, will send him back. When he arrived on the third floor, he did not send Xiao Jiao back to her room. Instead, he carried her back to the master bedroom and put her on the big bed. Husband, Joe Fox, get out of here. Xiao Jiao muttered in a low voice. Li Jie couldn't help but smile when he saw her like this. This Xiao Jiao is not honest when he is drunk. In fact, Xiao Jiao was already very honest this time. She had a party with Bai Wei and the others in their dormitory before, and she got drunk and acted like crazy, tormenting Bai Wei and the others for most of the night, and Su Yani even took advantage of them. Li Jie leaned down and kissed Xiao Jiao, helped her take off her coat and covered her with the quilt. He came out of the master bedroom and went downstairs to the basement. When he walked into the gym, he saw Lu Kaiyu already waiting for him. The two agreed to exercise together in the evening. Lu Kaiyu was sitting on the fitness chair with her eyes closed, as if she was asleep. She hasn't changed her clothes yet. She still has a white shirt and a black hip-hugging skirt, and a pair of beautiful black silk legs, which are thin, long, and straight. Li Jie came to her side and called softly, Xiao Yu. Hearing the cry, Lu Kaiyu reluctantly opened her eyes blurred, smiled, and said, Husband, you are here. Her voice was a little slurred, and she was obviously drunk. Red wine doesn't feel like anything when you drink it, but it has great stamina. Li Jie looked at her and sighed softly. How can she exercise when she's so drunk? Li Jie carried Lu Kaiyu out of the gym, went up to the second floor, and sent her back to her room. Putting her on the big bed, he let out a breath. This Lu Kaiyu was really drunk, very drunk. Li Jie also helped her take off her coat and covered her with a quilt. After coming out of Lu Kaiyu's room, he went down to Zhou Ziyu's room on the first floor. The door was unlocked and opened as soon as she pushed it open. She obviously guessed that he would come and left the door open for him. The headlight in the bedroom was not turned on, only the bedside table lamp was turned on. Zhou Ziyu wore a very sexy black suspender nightgown and sat on the bedside, holding a book and reading. Seeing Li Jie come in, she put down the book in her hand with a smile, Hubby, you're here. Looking at this scene, Li Jie remembered a saying, when you look at a beauty under the lamp, the more you look at it, the more beautiful she becomes. With this in mind, he also got on the bed, stretched out his arms to hold her in his arms. What are you looking at? It's a novel. What novel? He took the book and looked at it, and found that it was a book called Selected Western Horror Novels. The book collects 21 short horror stories by European and American writers, such as The Devil's Fetus, The Ghost Carriage, The Strange Legend of the Tomb and so on. Wouldn't she be scared to read such a horror novel alone in her room at night? Putting down the novel, Li Jie glanced at Zhou Ziyu. He discovered that his little lover likes to watch some sci-fi, suspense, mystery, horror, and even dark-style novels and movies, such as the movies The Butterfly Effect, The Master Key, The First Commandment, etc. By the way, you haven't read a book for a long time, right? Yeah, Zhou Ziyu nodded. It's been a few months since I finished Want to See You, but she hasn't opened a new book. Do you have anything you want to write? Li Jie asked. No, Zhou Ziyu shook his head lightly. After a pause, she added, I came up with an idea, but I'm not very satisfied with it. Then, Josiah briefly explained to him the plot she had conceived. After listening to it, Ligia felt that it was okay. It is an ordinary youth theme, and the idea is a bit close to The Best of Us. It is the story of an ordinary girl meeting a top academic boy. However, why does Josiah always like to assume the perspective of an ordinary girl? She doesn't look ordinary at all, and she stands in a perfect C position among the crowd. This story is okay. Let me change it for you. Ligia briefly explained the plot of The Best of Us to Josiah. He has not only watched the TV series The Best of Us but also read the novel, and his memory is quite profound. Compared with the TV series, Ligia still prefers the original novel, which does not have a second male lead and is closer to reality. After telling the plot, he asked Josiah, Xiao, what do you think of this story? Josiah nodded, it's a very good story. This story is very plain, but very real and touching. The story she conceived was a bit false and failed to impress people. Then just combine this story with your story. Ligia paused and said with a smile, okay, now that you have your new book, it's time for us to get down to business. After saying that, he lowered his head and kissed her. Ligia breathed a sigh of relief as he carried Josiah, who was sleeping deeply, back to the master bedroom upstairs and placed her next to Xiaoqiao. At this time, Xiaoqiao turned over and hugged Josiah, and muttered, hubby, you are back. Seeing this scene, Ligia couldn't help but chuckle. Shenzhenyi had a dream. She dreamed that Ligia took her to the amusement park to play. The sun was strong and the weather was hot. She felt so hot all over and her mouth was dry. Fortunately, Ligia was very considerate and bought her water. Husband, you are so kind, she muttered softly. Ligia, who was feeding her water in the room, had a smile on his face. Next time, don't let them drink together. It's too tiring to serve this and that. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 408. Xiaoqiao also had a dream. She dreamed that she learned flower arranging, painting, playing piano and other talents, and became famous in front of Ligia. Wearing a pink floor-length dress, she sat elegantly in front of the piano, her fingers moving nimbly on the keys, and she performed a very difficult Chopin fantasy march. After playing the last note, the sound of the piano suddenly stopped. Ligia clapped his hands in amazement, and Josiah was even dumbfounded, looking like he didn't recognize her anymore. Joe Fox, you know how powerful I am, he muttered in a low voice, and Xiaoqiao couldn't help but smile proudly. Just then, she felt someone push her. Hubby, don't make trouble, Xiaoqiao muttered subconsciously, and then hugged Ligia tightly. It's not right. Why does it feel so soft? It also feels feeling like Sister Wei. Sister Wei, why is Sister Wei here? Thinking of this, Xiaoqiao suddenly woke up. When she opened her eyes, she was surprised to find that the person she was hugging was Josiah. Both of them were still naked. Joe Fox, why is it you? Where is my husband? She quickly let go of him. Josiah looked calm, with a playful smile in his eyes. When she woke up in the morning and saw Xiaoqiao, she was a little surprised, but she soon understood that it must have been Ligia who carried her over. Ligia liked to see her and Xiaoqiao lying on the same bed. Joe Fox, why are you here? Xiaoqiao looked hostile. Josiah looked at her and smiled, how you got here is how I got here. Xiaoqiao bit her lip, and she also thought that this must be a good thing done by Ligia. Hurry up and leave. This is the master bedroom, and it's not something a mistress is qualified to stay in. Josiah smiled again, she was not as knowledgeable as Xiaoqiao. It's not her decision who is the hostess. Besides, she has stayed in this room many more times than Xiaoqiao. She stretched lazily, revealing the curves of her graceful body. Vixen, Xiao Jiao looked envious and jealous. After hearing this, Zhou Ziyu looked at her with a smile, his eyes fell on her breasts, and then shook his head slightly. The meaning is self-evident. There is a saying that when you hit someone, don't slap someone in the face, and when you speak, don't expose someone's shortcomings. The sore spot was poked, and Xiao Jiao suddenly became anxious. Joe Fox, you're looking for a fight, right? As she spoke, she threw Zhou Ziyu onto the bed. Xiao Jiao, please stop this, or I won't be polite. Who told you to be polite? The two were naked and wrestling together. Downstairs on the second floor, Shen Xian vaguely felt something moving upstairs. When he opened his eyes, he found that she was being held in Li Zhe's arms, her delicate body pressed against his broad chest. When did Li Zhe come? And where are her clothes? Wasn't last night a dream? Shen Xian tried hard to remember, but after waking up, the dream became blurry. It seemed that Li Zhe took her to the amusement park, and it seemed that he was bullying her. The memory in the dream was very confusing. My dear, are you awake? Noticing that Shen Xian had woken up, Li Zhe lowered his head and blew into her ear, and his hands began to become shaky. Yeah, Shen Xian hummed slightly. Husband, when did you come last night? Li Zhe couldn't help laughing after hearing this. I've been here a long time ago. You had a dream last night and said you wanted to eat ice cream. Last night, Shen Xinyi was the most difficult one to deal with. He kept clamoring for ice cream. Where could he get her ice cream in the middle of the night? Doesn't this make things difficult for him? Hearing Li Zhe mention ice cream, Shen Xian vaguely remembered something, and her face immediately turned red. As red as an apple, it is particularly attractive. Li Zhe's heart moved when he saw it, and he turned over and pinned her down. Husband, Shen Xinyi called him. What's wrong? Li Zhe asked while kissing her. I want to open a small shop, Shen Xinyi said softly. What store? A clothing store or an accessories store? Okay, no problem, Li Zhe agreed readily. If you behave well, I will be satisfied and open a boutique for you. Upstairs, Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu stopped fighting when they were tired. Downstairs, Li Zhe and Shen Xinyi started fighting again. Entering December, the weather in Shanghai gradually became colder. Especially in the middle of the year, a cold wave hit and the temperature dropped to close to 0 degrees Celsius, as if winter had entered overnight. Escape from the Shark Sea was released for nearly a month and was released on December 8. The box office was a little over 40 million, which barely met Li Zhe's expectations. The main reason is that 2012 was so powerful that its box office exceeded RMB 80 million within 3 days of its release. All the movies released during the same period were slashed. Escape from the Shark Sea was already considered the best performer, while other domestic small and medium budget movies were in mourning. For example, Rules Before Falling in Love only grossed 8 million at the box office in its 2 weeks of release, and it was a huge loss. It has to be said that Wang Luodan has a really bad eye for filming. No wonder he was ostracized by her sisters who bumped into each other and had no scenes to film. 2012 was a box office hit, earning 466 million in 1 month of release, surpassing Transformers' 430 million, becoming the new box office champion in mainland film history. However, the other 2 Hollywood blockbusters, The Twilight Saga and District 9, bombed the market one after another. In particular, District 9 only received more than 10 million at the box office, which shocked everyone. These were all understood by Li Jian. Liu Yufei was completely shocked, and Liu's mother was also shocked when she heard about it. Li Zhe's vision was no longer precise and indescribable, it was almost like prediction. But even so, the mother and daughter were still unable to make a decision and kept procrastinating. Li Zhe was impatient to wait. It's no wonder that she was like that in her last life. making random moves and not making any decisions at all. He implicitly gave them an ultimatum, and they must sign the contract before this year. The two made a bet and agreed that if he won, she would be his girlfriend, lover. How could she go back on her word? In addition, Lu Kaiyu and Zhou Ziyu investigated for half a month and selected 3 stores as alternative locations for the beauty salon. One is on the Bund, one is on Huihei Road and one is in Sujiawai. The store on the Bund has the best location, but the store is a bit small, only about 300 square meters. The location of the store on Huihei Road is a bit out of the way, but the area is very suitable, about 600 square meters, not too big or too small. The location of the store in Sujiawai is also good, but the store is too big, covering an area of 1,500 square meters, and the rental cost is too high. Lu Kaiyu and Zhou Ziyu both tend to choose the store on the Bund, which is a bit small at about 300 square meters. Most large beauty salons in first-tier cities are around 300 to 500 square meters. But 300 square meters is basically enough, and the rent is cheap, making it suitable for newcomers like them to practice. But Li Jie rejected it. He positioned Yu Yanfang as a high-end large-scale beauty club that integrates beauty, body beauty, healthcare, physical therapy, and health preservation. How can 300 square meters be enough? At present, the development of the domestic beauty industry is still relatively backward. There are very few large-scale beauty clubs exceeding 1,000 square meters, and even beauty salons with an area of 500 square meters are very rare. If you don't do it, you should be the best and most high-end beauty club in Shanghai. Only in this way can you attract high-end customers. Besides, the total number of artists and anchors under Kudong Group is almost 200 now, and there will be more and more in the future. The store is too small to even do internal business. As for the rent issue, there is no need to rent a shop and pay rent to others. He is not short of money, so he can just buy it from any shop he likes. In the next 10 years, the rents of shops in popular areas of Shanghai have increased year by year, and you can definitely make a profit by buying them. Li Jie sent Zhuang Qian over to talk to the boss behind the Sujiawai store. I originally thought that if the other party didn't want to sell, I would find another one. After all, the most lacking thing in Shanghai is stores. I don't want the store owner to want to immigrate abroad. Although the asking price is a bit high, it is within a reasonable range. Li Jie discovered that there are quite a few wealthy people in Shanghai who want to immigrate abroad. Zhuang Qian talked with the boss for several days, and finally bought the store at a price of more than 50,000 per square meter, spending a total of almost 80 million. Now that the store is in place, the next step is to prepare to open the store. It is not easy to open a large-scale high-end beauty club. Lu Kaiyu, Zhou Ziyu, Xiaoqiao, and Shen Xinyi have many things to do, and they do not know the inside story of the beauty industry. This made the 4 of them feel even more stressed. What's more, this is a big project worth hundreds of millions. If the 4 of them lose money, they will have to pay off the debt together. In addition to the 80 million to buy the shop, Li Jie gave them another 20 million to fund the preparation and operation of the beauty club. That is to say, Lu Kaiyu has experience in working and managing in large companies. If there were only 3 of them, Zhou Ziyu, Xiaoqiao, and Shen Xinyi, they would really not dare to take over. Big projects like this are no joke. So the 4 of them rarely worked together, divided the work and cooperated, and each was responsible for doing what they should do. Under Li Jie's prompting, the 4 of them did not rush to start the preparation work. Instead, they first visited major high-end beauty clubs in China and South Korea for more than 10 days. Lu Kaiyu also hired a senior person from abroad who had worked in the beauty industry for many years to serve as the deputy general manager of the beauty club to assist them in preparing the beauty club. Then the preparatory work officially started. Decorate and arrange the beauty club, purchase various instruments and equipment, beauty products, formulate announcement manuals, recruit employees, train employees, etc. The four of them were busy and full of energy all day long. Li Jie was very pleased to see them sitting together and discussing various matters in the beauty club. He should have found something for them to do long ago, so that they wouldn't have to quarrel with each other when they had nothing to do at home. Another thing that needs to be mentioned is League of Legends. League of Legends was launched on the Kudong platform on November 21st. Although there are already two massively multiplayer online real-time battle games, Dota and Warcraft Dynasty Warriors, on the market, League of Legends has still gained great popularity after its launch. First, the Kudong platform is very popular and uses almost all resources to promote it. Second, compared to Dota and Dynasty Warriors from World of Warcraft, League of Legends is more popular. Dota and Dynasty Warriors of Warcraft are relatively difficult to get started. For example, the shortcut keys are confusing, and novice players must memorize the shortcut keys first. The difficulty of getting started with League of Legends is much lower, especially since the server has just been launched and there are still relatively few heroes. Moreover, League of Legends is also more playable. On average, the server has one more hero per month and more props. With Li Jie's intervention, domestic heroes Monkey King and Li Qing appeared in advance. The Monkey King is Sun Wukong, everyone knows this. Li Qing's prototype is Bruce Lee. The appeal of these two heroes to domestic players is absolutely extraordinary. League of Legends has become popular after being launched for more than a month. You can see people playing it in internet cafes. It is estimated that League of Legends will soon take away most of the market from Dota and Dynasty Warriors from Warcraft. On December 10, Adolescence was released, and Three Guns was released at the same time. In China, the period from December to the end of the Spring Festival holiday is generally called the Lunar New Year period. The Lunar New Year period is also the most important movie schedule and is a must-have for domestic blockbusters. This month, there are many domestic blockbusters released to compete in the Lunar New Year period, including The Storm 2 and The Tomb on the 9th, Three Guns on the 10th, and October Siege on the 17th. With so many blockbuster movies being released at the same time, it seems a bit unwise for Puberty to be released at this time. But Li Jie knew that except for October Siege, which was relatively good, the rest were all bad movies, and none of them could beat them. Especially Assassin's Tomb is simply terrible. The film schedule of Adolescence is much better than that of Escape from the Shark Sea, which ran into 2012. The main promotional point of Puberty is the pain of youth. Before youth themes such as Those Years, To Youth and Left Ear appeared, this revised version of Puberty could be regarded as the originator of domestic youth films. The plot of the movie is a comprehensive revision of the contents of the first three Adolescence films in the previous life. Although the plot is still very bloody, with a delinquent female student heroine, a dog-licking male protagonist, being tricked into getting pregnant by a scumbag, and an honest person taking over, but which youth-themed movie is not bloody? Dog blood is normal. Besides, no matter how bad it is still better than chilling. Major theater chains and theaters are also optimistic about Adolescence. After all, Cuckoo Entertainment's previous 4 movies were hits, and the quality of the movies produced is very guaranteed. Even though there are so many blockbusters, Adolescence was still given a certain schedule. Li Jie also has relatively high expectations for Adolescence, aiming for a box office of over 100 million. Adolescence is pretty good compared to her peers, and Zhao Yahuan also has a certain appeal. He has starred in Old Boy, which has a box office of over 100 million. He is also known as a otaku goddess on the internet, and he is very likely to be a box office hit. If the box office can really exceed 100 million, Zhao Yahuan will not become popular anymore, but will really become popular. In this era, the box office has exceeded 100 million, which is still very valuable. A movie with a box office of over 100 million yuan deserves a lot of bragging, and it is a new second-tier movie. Shanghai Normal University, Suhui Campus. Wang Zhining hugged a few books and walked out of the teaching building towards the dormitory building. In December, it is the final review period. There is no need to attend classes anymore. Students are busy reviewing and preparing for exams. Wang Zhining has been busy with filming and has barely attended school. If she doesn't review well, she will fail the class. Last semester, she failed 3 subjects due to absence from the exam. She used to be a star student, and when she graduated, she became an outstanding alumnus. Teachers and school leaders gave her face, so it didn't matter even if she failed more subjects, she could just go through the motions and make up for the exam. But now it doesn't work anymore. The fact that she was hidden by the company has spread in the school. She no longer has the star aura, the preferential treatment is gone, and there are still many rumors about her. If you fail too many subjects, you may have to repeat a grade or even not get a diploma. Walking on the road, Wang Zhining could clearly feel that many people were looking at her. It's just that the eyes that used to look at her were filled with envy and adoration, but now they turned into sympathy, ridicule, and gloating. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 409. Returning to the dormitory building, went up to the 3rd floor, and came to the door of the dormitory. Just as Wang Zhining was about to open the door and go in, she heard a girl inside say, "Do you think Zhining still has a chance to come back?" "Come back," a girl sneered, "there's no way she's coming back, she's going to be hidden forever." The first girl to speak asked curiously, "Jiayan, why are you so sure?" The girl named Jiayan smiled disdainfully, "Do you know why she was hidden in the snow?" After a pause, she continued, "Because she offended the boss of the company." She was previously praised for being in love with the boss of the company, but she hooked up with a young actor behind the boss's back. The boss was furious when he found out. Not only did he completely hide her, but he also banned the young actor. No way. Zhining looks quite pure. Innocent. How can a star be innocent? If she hadn't been infiltrated, why would the company praise her so much? She might not be able to show off in the boss's bed. Outside the door, Wang Zhining listened to the discussion in the dormitory, her bitten lips turned white, and she felt heartbroken and uncomfortable. Cai Jiayan, enough is enough. Zhining is so good to you, but you say this about her. Do you still have a conscience? Seeing Cai Jiayan slandering Wang Zhining like this, the other girl couldn't stand it anymore. Be good to me, Cai Jiayan raised her voice. She just treats me as a follower and acts like she's superior all day long. Besides, if she did something scandalous, why can't I tell her about it? If she is really afraid of being criticized by others, then she shouldn't do anything despicable. Cai Jiayan's heart was full of jealousy, resentment, and pleasure. She asked Wang Zhining for a small supporting role, but the other party was unwilling to help, saying that she did not have the right. She also said that she had no acting foundation and could not play a supporting role, so she had to start as a supporting role. But isn't she also a non-acting major, so what kind of acting foundation does she have? I just don't want to help, I'm just making excuses. Sidekick. What a look down on people. Now that she is fine, she is nothing, so what right does she have to be arrogant? A familiar girl passed by and looked curiously at Wang Zhining, who was standing at the door of the dormitory. "Zhining, why don't you go in? What are you doing standing at the door?" Hearing the sound outside the door, the conversations in the dormitory suddenly stopped. "Come in now." Wang Zhining smiled at the passing girl, opened the door and walked into the dormitory. Seeing Wang Zhining come in, the 3 girls in the dormitory had unnatural expressions. Especially the girl named Cai Jiayan. She didn't know how long Wang Zhining had been standing outside the door and whether she heard what she said. "Zhining, you are back." Wang Zhining gave her a cold look and said nothing. Seeing her expression, the three girls in the dormitory immediately understood that the other party had heard what they said. The girl who was fighting the injustice was okay, but Caijian and the other girl were a little guilty and didn't dare to look at her. Wang Zhining withdrew her gaze and was about to return to her position. "Why are you so proud? I really thought I was still a big star," Caijian muttered in a low voice. Since Wang Zhining heard everything, she was too lazy to pretend anymore. Upon hearing this, Wang Zhining stopped, turned around, walked up to the other party, raised her hand and slapped him hard. Snapped. Caijian was stunned, covering her face in disbelief. The other two girls were also shocked. Wang Zhining had always had a good temper and had never seen her get angry, let alone hit anyone. "You dare to hit me," Caijian said angrily. Wang Zhining stared at the other person and said coldly, "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will beat you every time I see you. I was really blind before, how could I treat you as a friend?" The two looked at each other for a while, but in the end Caijian was defeated first, snorted and looked away. Wang Zhining also looked back, walked to her desk, sat down, and put a few books in her arms on the desk. Several books are textbooks, and a white notebook is the script of The Ugly Girl Comes Back. I don't know whether she forgot it or what happened, but no one asked her to take the script back. Wang Zhining opened the script and read it silently. The gaps between paragraphs of the script are filled with densely packed small words. The words are very beautiful, and they are all analysis and understanding of the characters and the plot. Not only the heroine and the hero, but also the main characters such as the second and third heroines have been analyzed. Looking at the script, Wang Zhining couldn't help but think of scenes from the previous filming. In order to look like the fat girl Han Na who was 95 kilograms before plastic surgery, she had to put a thick layer of fat on her body. She spends 6 hours a day putting on this special outfit. It takes 4 hours to put on and 2 hours to take off. It was still October, the weather in Shanghai was still relatively hot, and she almost broke out in heat rash. Although the filming was very busy and hard, she had a goal to work hard for. She felt very fulfilled every day at that time, but now. Thinking of this, Wang Zhining sighed softly in her heart and put down the script. This character, who has put in a lot of hard work, has nothing to do with her at all. She heard from Xiaoying that the person who succeeded her as the heroine was a girl from an ethnic minority named Naza, who was very young and not yet an adult. The other party is also very beautiful, but his acting skills are not good. His performance during filming is very poor, and he is often scolded to tears by the director. She also said that the director felt sorry for her and said that she was the best candidate for Han Na in terms of appearance and acting skills. However, Xiaoying hasn't called for a while. She used to call once every 3 or 2 days, but recently she rarely called. Wang Zhining put away her thoughts, picked up a book and started to review. In the dormitory, Caijian and the other two girls didn't talk, each was doing his or her own thing, and the atmosphere was very depressing. At this time, the dormitory door was pushed open, and Zhao Yuhuan walked in from the outside with a smile. "Yuhuan, you're here." Seeing Zhao Yuhuan coming, Caijian and another girl immediately stood up and showed great enthusiasm. Only the girl who was fighting against Wang Zhining sat still. "Yuhuan, congratulations on your box office success." Caijian's face was full of compliments. "I read online comments that this movie is likely to gross over 100 million at the box office. It's really amazing. At this time, Adolescence has been in theaters for 10 days, and it has made more than 15 million at the box office in the first 2 days of the weekend, which is a good start. The film schedule of The Tomb, which was a hit at both the box office and word of mouth, has been significantly cut, while the film schedule of Adolescence has increased, ranking third after Three Guns and The Storm 2. Wind and Cloud 2 also had a poor reputation, but its box office performance was pretty good. With a substantial increase in film schedule, the box office of Adolescence exploded in the second week, taking in nearly 60 million box office, with a cumulative box office of more than 74 million. The industry was shocked, envious, and jealous. The main reason is that the investment in puberty is too low. The production and promotion is less than 20 million. Under the premise that the box office is destined to exceed 100 million, it is simply a bloody profit. In this movie, the only one who is somewhat famous is Zhao Yuhuan. However, it was a box office hit, but the movie's reputation declined rapidly. The vast majority of film critics and media commented on Adolescence as being trashy and vulgar, and Zhao Yuhuan's acting skills were also criticized. The movie's reputation is not good, and October Siege has already been released. The box office of Adolescence will definitely shrink significantly next week, but it is still no problem to have a box office of over 100 million. Adolescence will soon become Cuckoo Entertainment's second movie to gross over 100 million yuan. Hearing the compliments from Caijian and the others, Zhao Yuhuan's face was filled with smiles, and her big eyes were bent into the shape of crescents, which was very sweet and cute. She didn't expect that she would be so lucky. The box office of Old Boy previously exceeded 100 million, but she didn't expect that the box office of Puberty would exceed 100 million again. Two underappreciated low-budget movies became big hits. Two movies grossed over 100 million in box office within 1 year. For a time, Zhao Yuhuan could be said to be in the limelight. Her promotional materials are everywhere on the internet. They are not bought with money, but the media is riding on her popularity. Nowadays, the 85 flowers have not shown their prominence on the small screen, let alone the big screen. She can be said to be the representative of the 85-year-old actress on the big screen, and her popularity has even surpassed that of the 4 minor actresses. Zhao Yuhuan was very grateful to Li Zhe. She had already heard that Li Zhe named her to star in the 2 movies Old Boy and Adolescence. In the past, she felt that Li Zhe didn't think highly of her, but now she just wants to say that the boss really knows how to judge people and has a really accurate vision. Zhao Yuhuan walked to Wang Zhaining and greeted her with a smile. Zhaining. She didn't come here to listen to these useless compliments from Caijian and others. She had long been tired of hearing countless compliments from people this week. She mainly came to see Wang Zhaining. Yuhuan, congratulations on your box office success. Wang Zhaining also expressed congratulations. But she said congratulations, but there wasn't much smile on her face. Thank you, Zhao Yuhuan smiled, his big eyes turning into crescent moons. For some reason, she felt very comfortable when she heard Wang Zhaining say congratulations. Suddenly, Zhao Yuhuan saw the script on the table, picked it up and read it. Zhaining, do you still keep this script? Yeah, Wang Zhaining hummed calmly. Zhao Yuhuan smiled and put down the script again. It's good to leave a thought for yourself. There was a condescending tone in her tone. Zhaining, let's go have a meal together. Wang Zhaining didn't want to agree, but she thought of something, hesitated for a moment, and agreed, okay. She stood up and left the dormitory with Zhao Yuhuan. Caijian sent Zhao Yuhuan outside the door diligently. On the way to the school cafeteria, people frequently greeted Zhao Yuhuan warmly. Yuhuan, congratulations on the box office success. Sister Yuhuan, I watched the movie and you did a great job. Zhao Yuhuan also responded with a smile and was polite to everyone, without any air of celebrity. Many students in the school have watched Puberty. After all, it is a movie starring students from our school. Of course, not many people spend money to go to the cinema, and most people watch pirated copies. It's been 10 days since the movie was released, and pirated copies have already been released. When he came to the restaurant, Zhao Yuhuan was stopped by a little girl. The girl looks about 15 or 16 years old. Sister Yuhuan, can you sign your name for me? She said excitedly. Okay, Zhao Yuhuan smiled and took the notebook and pen. While signing, she asked gently, "You are not from our school, are you?" "Well, I'm from a nearby vocational high school." "Sister Yuhuan, I especially like your role as Cheng Xiao, it's so cool. Thanks for your support." This puberty can be regarded as the earliest campus youth-themed movie in China. Zhao Yuhuan's beautiful appearance, coupled with her sweet appearance and good figure, have become the campus goddess in the hearts of many people. In the film, there were several shots of her breasts that seemed to be exposed but not exposed, and it made many boys excited in their youth. Different from Old Boy, which was just used as a vase, this adolescence can be regarded as Zhao Yuhuan's masterpiece, which attracted her a lot of fans. Looking at Zhao Yuhuan signing autographs for fans, Wang Zhining felt unspeakable feelings in her heart. In the past, when she and Zhao Yuhuan walked together, the focus was always on her, but now it's completely the other way around. Over the past month or so, she finally understood what it means to be warm and cold in human relationships, and the world is cold and cold. After she hit rock bottom, all the gentle and bright smiling faces around her disappeared and turned into contempt, ridicule, gloating, and rumors spread everywhere. Even her best friend changed her attitude and threw dirty water on her. After sending the fans away, Zhao Yuhuan smiled at Wang Zhining and said, "Zhining, let's go." The two walked into the restaurant together, went up to the second floor, and came to a Korean restaurant. After finding a seat by the window, Zhao Yuhuan asked Wang Zhining to order. At this moment, Wang Zhining's cell phone rang. The call was from her mother. However, as soon as the call was connected, the phone ran out of power and shut down. Wang Zhining returned to the dormitory just to charge her mobile phone, but she forgot about charging when she clashed with Cai Jiayan. "Yuhuan, can I borrow your cell phone to make a call? My cell phone is out of battery." Of course, Zhao Yuhuan smiled and took out his phone and handed it over. Wang Zhining took the phone and walked not far away to make a call. As soon as she opened the dialing interface, she saw an outgoing call marked as Mr. Li. Looking at the phone note, Wang Zhining's heart moved. He hesitated and then clicked on the note. 10 minutes later, Wang Zhining finished the phone call, her face looking a little unhappy. The news about her being hidden by the company has spread back to her hometown in Liaodong province. Her mother, relatives, and friends all know about it. She has a cousin who is also studying in Shanghai, so there is no need to guess that it was the other party who passed the news back. Wang Zhining was very worried about eating this meal, but Zhao Yuhuan was smiling broadly and talking non-stop. After finishing the meal, the two walked out of the restaurant and parted at the door. Wang Zhining walked back carelessly. When she was about to reach the dormitory area, she heard someone shouting, "Zhining." When she came back to her senses, she saw a tall, handsome, and vigorous young boy walking over quickly. "I couldn't get through when I called you. I heard from your classmates that you went to eat, so they have been waiting for you downstairs in the dormitory. What are you doing here?" Wang Zhining's tone was very cold. She used to admire him very much and felt that he was confident, optimistic, and proactive. Although he was only a young actor now, he would definitely make a difference in the future. But it turns out that she was mistaken. The other person was just an embroidered pillow. He usually talked freely, but when something happened, he became chaotic and showed no responsibility. He even put all the blame on her. But if he hadn't been smart enough to expose the meeting between the two to the media, things wouldn't have ended up like this. The boy smiled, his smile a little bitter. "Zhining, don't be like this, after all we are." Wang Zhining interrupted the other party. "What is it? Are we related?" The relationship between the two is very subtle. They had a crush on each other before, and their relationship was so ambiguous that they just had to break through the layer of paper. But once this incident occurs, that layer of paper may never have a chance to be pierced. This is why Wang Haining didn't feel sorry for the company before. She didn't think about hiding it. If she wanted to confirm the relationship, she would definitely tell the company first. But he secretly exposed the matter to the media, which made her passively betray the company, making it difficult to explain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 410. The boy was silent for a few seconds and said, "You said it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter." He was also very dissatisfied with Wang Haining, who pretended to be so innocent, but was actually a taboo maintained by the big boss. If he had known this earlier, how could he provoke the other party? Now it's better, I didn't take advantage of it, and I even made a mess. Hidden away by the company and blocked by the industry, this woman has caused him great harm. Thinking like this, he took a deep breath and said, "Haining, can we have a good chat?" Wang Haining thought for a moment and nodded, "Okay." She also felt that it was time for a break between the two. The two of them were walking side by side on the campus path, with the street lights emitting light. The boy was tall and handsome, and the girl was tall and beautiful. They seemed to be a perfect match. From time to time, students would cast their eyes on the two of them. After a moment of silence, Wang Haining spoke first, "What do you want to say?" The boy glanced at Wang Haining. She was innocent but charming and sexy. This girl is really the best. It's a pity not to be able to get started. But even if she lets him touch her now, he doesn't dare to touch her anymore. Just thinking about how proactive Wang Haining might be in front of his financial sponsor, yet she pretended to be pure and innocent in front of him and wouldn't let him touch her, and he felt indescribably aggrieved. Li Jie, the boss of Kudong Group, Mr. Li, is the big boss behind your company, right? Yes, Wang Haining nodded. The boy looked at her again. "I heard that Mr. Li admired you very much before. What do you want to say?" Seeing him going around, Wang Haining became a little impatient. The boy hesitated and said, "Haining, can you help me beg Mr. Li to let him go?" "Haining, I'm really helpless. The company hid everything from me and asked me to pay for it. Just help me." He thought that there might be a financial backer behind Wang Haining, but he didn't expect that the other party was so powerful. After hearing that he had offended the boss behind Cuckoo Entertainment, the company immediately hid him and asked him to compensate for training expenses, a total of more than 200,000 yuan. Where can he get more than 200,000? And he finally got a role as the third male lead, but after the director heard that he had offended Cuckoo Entertainment, he immediately dropped him, and even said that no crew would dare to use him in the future. After asking around a lot of people, he found out that Li Jie was a ruthless character. There had been a rich second-generation man who wanted to take advantage of his lover, but he was so tricked that he could no longer stay in the country and could only hide abroad. If he couldn't get the other party's understanding, he would really have to say goodbye to the entertainment industry. When he applied for art school despite his family's objections, he just wanted to become a big star and have a shining life. How could your future be delayed just because of a woman? Shall I plead for you? Wang Haining's tone revealed surprise and was difficult to understand. I've been hidden by the company, how can I intercede for you? The boy smiled flatteringly. Haining, weren't you Mr. Li's girlfriend before? Nothing happened between the two of us. If you explain it to Mr. Li carefully, there should be a chance for reconciliation. Please help me by asking for mercy. I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm also doing it for you. Mr. Li is rich and powerful, so you follow him. Listening to the other party's words, Wang Haining looked in disbelief. It turns out that he also thought that she was having an affair with Li Jie. Wang Haining couldn't help but think of Li Jie's words, what did you find? It is true that she has no vision, and can even be said to be blind. How could she have taken a fancy to such a thing? She offended the company and ruined her career for this kind of man. She is really a fool. She had looked down on Luanxilan and Nini before, thinking it was shameful for them to sell their bodies for resources. Now that I think about it, at least I got what I wanted and got something for my efforts. But what about her? After putting in so much effort, it all ended up being in vain. It turns out that she is the biggest joke. Wang Xining doesn't understand the story of future generations, otherwise she would definitely remember that sentence, "The clown is actually myself." "Lu Xiaoyang, get out of here," Wang Xining pointed at the boy and said with a fearful voice. "Xining, don't." The boy wanted to say something else. "Get out of here right now," Wang Xining interrupted. She felt sick just looking at him now, and she didn't want to continue hearing his disgusting words. Seeing her being so heartless, Lu Xiaoyang's face became a little ugly. "Wang Xining, don't force me." "I force you. I'm blind to fall in love with you." After Wang Xining finished speaking, she turned around and left. "Stop," Lu Xiaoyang shouted. His face was gloomy and extremely ugly. "Wang Xining, why are you pretending? You were favored before just because you were close to the financial sponsor. But you already have a sponsor, why are you still seducing me? Now that I have been hidden by the company and banned from the industry, I have been unlucky for 8 lifetimes when I met you." Although the location of the two of them was relatively secluded, the handsome men and women attracted attention. In addition, the two people argued loudly. Some students passing by were attracted and stopped not far away to watch. Now Lu Xiaoyang's words were heard by the students who were watching, and they all looked at Wang Xining with strange eyes. Curiosity, contempt, disdain are just some of them. As if to say, this is who she is. It looks quite innocent, but I didn't expect it to be so shameless. Looking at the eyes of the people around her, Wang Xining felt chilled all over, her hands and feet were cold, and tears flowed down unsatisfactorily. She understood that her reputation in the school was completely ruined, and soon all the teachers and students in the school would know that she was being supported by someone else. No one would believe her explanation, it was hard to argue with. Wang Xining looked at Lu Xiaoyang with an angry face again, and her heart became even colder. This was the other person's true face. It is also a good thing to see clearly early. If you are really deceived by the other party, it will be too late to regret it. She gave him a cold look, turned around and left. However, Wang Xining wanted to leave, but Lu Xiaoyang refused to let her go. "Don't leave, I haven't made it clear yet." With that said, he stretched out his hand to grab Wang Xining's arm. At this moment, a tall and beautiful girl rushed up and kicked Lu Xiaoyang on the waist, causing him to stagger and almost fall. "Who the hell are you?" Lu Xiaoyang stared at the girl fiercely, his eyes burning. "I am your aunt Zhao Jinjia," the girl said coldly. "That's right, it's Zhao Jinjia who's here." She had been watching for a while, and when she saw Lu Xiaoyang was about to take action, she immediately stood up. "You are a grown man, how can you bully girls? What I despise the most is people like you. Get out of here. I advise you not to mind your own business, otherwise." Lu Xiaoyang said harshly. "What else? Do you still dare to hit me?" Zhao Jinjia's face was full of disdain. "Yes, do you still dare to hit someone?" 3 more girls stood up. Zhao Jinjia is the head of the short video shooting team at the Normal University. She is very popular among girls. She can be said to be the eldest sister of the school. Looking at the girls standing in front of Wang Xining, Lu Xiaoyang's face turned green and white, and he was very embarrassed. But in full view of the public, he really didn't dare to hit anyone, let alone a girl. Zhao Jinjia snorted coldly and looked at the boys watching. "You boys are useless, right? You are seeing people outside the school bullying the girls in our school, and no one stands up. After hearing what she said, several male protagonists immediately stood up. Who said we boys are not talented? Boy, you can't bully the girls from normal university. Yes, get out of here. We can't let him leave like this. He must apologize. He can't leave without apologizing. For a moment, the heroes were furious. For many ordinary boys, the goddess has fallen off the altar, and the desire to lick her has not only not disappeared, but has intensified. The goddess on the altar was just out of reach before, but now she has a slight chance. The goddess' career and relationship are both frustrated. If they can show off and gain favor, they might be able to take advantage of the situation. So there have long been boys who want to stand up and be heroes to save beauties. But if a couple quarrels and rushes to the front, they may not be human inside and out. Now Zhao Jinja's words gave them a reason to stand up. 5 or 6 boys surrounded Lu Xiaoyang aggressively. What are you going to do? Lu Xiaoyang was obviously a bit angry. What are you doing? I want you to apologize. A tall, dark-skinned boy pushed him. Another boy also took the opportunity to kick him. Yes, I must apologize. After being beaten several times, Lu Xiaoyang showed anger on his face, but he did not dare to fight back. Okay, let him go, Zhao Jinja said. The tall and muscular boy glanced at Zhao Jinja, and then said, since Jinja said what you said, get out of here. Lu Xiaoyang looked at the boys and Zhao Jinja angrily, then looked at Wang Zhining resentfully, then turned and left. Thank you for your help. Thank you very much, Wang Zhining expressed her gratitude to the boys and Zhao Jinja sincerely. The boys were a little flattered when they heard this. Zhining, you're welcome. Yes, this is what we should do. We can't watch you being bullied by outsiders. A handsome boy looked at Wang Zhining and couldn't help but said, Zhining, you don't need to take that guy's words to heart, we all believe you. Yes, we all believe in you. The other boys followed suit. However, the girls didn't say anything and looked at each other with different expressions. Thank you. Thank you everyone, Wang Zhining forced a smile. Soon, everyone left, leaving only Wang Zhining and Zhao Jinja. Jinja, thank you, Wang Zhining expressed her gratitude again. Zhao Jinja glanced at Wang Zhining, but her attitude was very cold. You don't need to thank me. If you want to thank, just thank Mr. Li. I only helped you for his sake. After all, you were an artist under his company before. After a pause, she added, you are someone like you who doesn't even know how to be grateful. You don't deserve sympathy at all. After saying that, Zhao Jinja turned around and left. Wang Zhining was silent, watching the other party go away, and then walked towards the dormitory building. That night, Wang Zhining tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. She picked up the mobile phone that was placed next to her pillow, opened her address book, and looked at a phone number marked as the big boss in trance. She used to look down on Li Jie because he was too carefree and ridiculous, and he had countless girlfriends and lovers. He dared to mess around in the car with his female artists in broad daylight. A bitch. But now that I think about it, Li Jie is really a very principled person. Although he has so much power, he has never forced anyone. Luan Xiaolin and Nini all took the initiative to post in order to get resources. It can only be said that they are willing to do so. And he doesn't praise anyone he lurks, and he treats them fairly. Just like her, she still gets resources even if she's not submerged. The resources they received were no less than those of Luan Xiaolin and others. Such a good boss can be said to be unique. On the contrary, she was holding his resources, enjoying his protection, and still despising him in her heart. Just as Zhao Jinja said, she has no gratitude at all. It is deserved to be in this situation today, and it is not worthy of sympathy at all. After thinking about it for most of the night, Wang Zhining fell asleep in a daze until dawn. The next day, she was woken up by a phone call. She picked up her phone and saw that it was Xiaoying calling. Wang Zhining couldn't help but feel happy that Xiaoying, her former assistant, was one of her few friends. However, after the call was connected, Xiaoying's first words were, "Sisters Hining, can you give me the script of The Ugly Girl's Makeover?" She called to ask for the script. After hanging up the phone, Wang Zhining sighed softly. Although Xiaoying didn't say it clearly, she could tell that it was the female artist named Naza. When she heard that she had a copy of the script for The Ugly Girl's Makeover, she told Xiaoying to go back. But how did Nazar know that she had a script in her hand? Wang Zhining immediately thought of Zhao Yahuan. She happened to see the script when she came to the dormitory yesterday. No need to guess that it must have been her. Thinking of this, Wang Zhining shook her head slightly. He has a better understanding of the warmth and coldness of human relationships and the harshness of the world. If you don't have the strength, you won't even be able to keep a script. She would definitely hand over the script, and there was no way she would embarrass Xiaoying because of a script. What made Wang Zhining a little uncomfortable was Xiaoying's attitude, which clearly showed her alienation towards her. But that's right, Xiaoying is already with another artist, and it's not suitable to keep in touch with her anymore. Xiaoying came over in a nanny car, took the script and left in a hurry. The nanny car was still the same Mercedes-Benz SUV, but like Xiaoying, it was also assigned to the female artist named Naza. Not only the assistant and nanny car, but also her previous driver, makeup artist, costume designer, and agent are all hers. In the afternoon, Wang Zhining stayed alone in her dormitory reading a book when she suddenly received a call from the counselor asking her to go to the office. Half an hour later, Wang Zhining walked out of the guidance office. Walking aimlessly on campus, she thought about what the counselor said. "Zhining, there are some bad rumors about you in the school. In principle, the teacher does not believe these rumors." "I don't believe it in principle," Wang Zhining suddenly smiled playfully. "Everyone seems to believe that she is a shameless woman who sells her body to get resources. Even her mother doubted her. It was clear that she had done nothing, yet she was splashed with dirty water and still couldn't wash it off. Why is the company praising you if you don't have anyone else? Why are your resources so good? Why do people say that about you? Are people slandering you? People believe what they want to believe regardless of the facts. Well, everyone thought she was cheating on someone anyway, so she might as well just do what they wanted. How was it done? So what if you haven't done it? She has no strength and has done nothing, but people still make irresponsible remarks. If she has strength, even if she is really clinging to others, who would dare to say anything? She wants to shut everyone up, make those who deserve to pay the price, and get back everything that has been lost." Thinking of this, Wang Zhining no longer hesitated, took out her mobile phone and dialed the number marked Big Boss. What is really powerful is not the original T, but the blackened one. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 411. When he received the call from Wang Zhining, Li Zhe was acting with Lu Yufei. After Li Zhe gave a suggestive ultimatum, the Lu family and their daughter finally made up their minds and flew to Shanghai on December 21. In order to show his attention, Li Zhe came to the airport in person to pick him up with his bodyguards. After waiting at the airport pickup gate for a while, Lu Yufei, dressed in casual clothes, wearing a beret and large sunglasses, walked out along with the flow of people, accompanied by Liu's mother. "Mr. Li, I'm sorry to bother you to come to pick him up at the airport in person," Mother Lu said politely with a smile. Li Zhe smiled and said, "Auntie, you don't have to be polite with me." After saying that, he turned to look at Lu Yufei again. "Qian." Lu Yufei smiled and nodded, "Brother Zhe." Zhou Chao and Ruanjing took over the suitcases from Lu Yufei and Liu's mother with great discernment. Li Jie naturally put his arms around Lu Yufi's waist and walked out of the airport with her in his arms. Mother Lu glanced at the two of them and said nothing. "Mr. Li, there seems to be a reporter," Ruan Jing reminded. Li Jie followed her gaze and saw that there was indeed a man taking pictures of them with a camera. "Don't worry about him, let him shoot. As long as this small media is not stupid, it will not offend a large group like Kudong Group. There will be no blind reporting." After leaving the airport and arriving at the Bentley Arnage RL, Li Jie personally helped Lu Yufi open the backseat door. "Sissy, auntie, get in the car. He is a corporal of courtesy, and he really doesn't want to be a dragon knight." Mother Lu looked at the extended version of the Bentley sedan and nodded in her mind. The Bentley Arnage RL left Hongqiao Airport and headed towards Songjiang. Along the way, Li Jie chatted with Lu Yufi and Liu's mother, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. 40 or 50 minutes later, the Bentley drove into the Sheshan National Tourism Resort. The villa in Ziwan has been idle for almost a year. The location is too remote. Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziu are not willing to come. They would also prefer to go to Sanya for vacation. Li Jie had planned to sell this villa before. The villa in the suburbs of Songjiang had little potential for appreciation. There was no need to keep it if it was not used. Instead of going directly to the villa, Li Jie asked Zhou Chao to drive the Lu family and his daughter around the Sheshan tourist resort to see the scenery. Ziwan Villa is not suitable for long-term living, but it is very suitable for vacation. There are natural landscapes such as Dongxi Mountain, Yuehu Lake, and Sheshan Forest Park nearby, as well as large playgrounds, ski resorts, golf courses and other entertainment venues. "Sissy, auntie, what do you think of the environment here?" Li Jie asked. Lu Yufi looked away from the window. "The scenery here is very good." Mother Lu also nodded, "Very good." After the Bentley drove into the Ziwan Villa district, it walked around the community first, and then stopped in front of a small villa with white walls and red tiles, which had a rather unique appearance. Li Jie's villa can only be considered an ordinary apartment in Ziwan, with 3 floors and 420 square meters, with 5 bedrooms and 3 living rooms. There is a private swimming pool and large outdoor garden, an independent garage, and an underground wine room. He looked down upon it, but to ordinary people, this villa was already extremely luxurious. After getting off the car, Li Jie took Lu Yufi and Liu's mother to look around. "Sissy, aunt, what do you think of this villa?" "This villa is very good." Lu Yufi and Liu's mother looked around. Surrounded by water and surrounded by greenery, the villa has an excellent environment, not to mention that the villa area is close to the Sheshan tourist resort. It was infinitely better than the villa in the countryside where they lived in the capital. Li Jie smiled, looked at them and said, "Then this villa will be given to Sissy. It can be regarded as a meeting gift for signing the contract." When Lu Yufi and Liu's mother heard this, they were stunned for a moment, and then quickly declined. "Mr. Li, we can't accept this, it's too expensive." "It's just a villa, it's not expensive," Li Jie said nonchalantly. A villa worth 10 to 20 million yuan is only 2 or 3 days' income to him, so it's really nothing. "Auntie, don't be polite, it's settled." After a pause, he added, "Besides, Sissy will be stationed in Shanghai in the future. What will happen if there is no suitable place to stay?" "Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Li," Mother Lu agreed immediately. She also knew Ziwan, which was regarded as the top villa area in Shanghai. Even if this villa is an ordinary apartment, it costs more than 20 million, and Li Jie actually gives it away as soon as he says it. Today she really saw the arrogance of the richest people on the rich list. It's too generous. She was still a little hesitant at first, but she suddenly became determined. Being a star is not as important as marrying into a wealthy family. If their daughter really gets married to Li Jie, they will have someone to rely on for the rest of their lives. Besides, Li Jie started from scratch, and there were no elders to pressure him. Where can I find such a good son-in-law? Seeing the smile that couldn't be concealed on Liu's mother's face, Li Jie smiled in his heart. He liked their unseen look. Although Liu Yufei is a first-line star, in the eyes of real rich people, she is nothing. According to data released by Forbes Celebrity List this year, Liu Yufei's income is 7.5 million. But this is an overestimation, and it is still pre-tax income. The actual income is greatly reduced, and it is only more than 4 million at most. This little money is only half a day's income for Li Jie. Looking at Liu Yufei, Li Jie said with a smile, "Qingzi, you like Ferrari, right? I also ordered the latest 458 for you, which can be regarded as a signing gift. Raise a lover, don't be willing to spend money to raise a lover. Not to mention A-list stars like Liu Yufei. Imitate Liu's method of pursuing women in real estate, luxury houses and luxury cars, first get them smashed and then talk about it." Nowadays, the income of celebrities is not that high, and it is relatively easy to make money. But in 2 years, it will not be so easy to make money. After visiting the villa, the three of them returned to the living room on the first floor and sat down on the sofa. Mother Lu looked at Li Jie with indescribable satisfaction. Her idea was indeed correct. Being a star was not as good as marrying into a wealthy family. How many movies would it take for her daughter to afford such a villa? The two of them are dating now, and Li Jie is so willing. If his daughter really gets married to the other person, then he will get whatever he wants. Did she know that Li Jie was in Tan Palace and had a villa worth 100 to 200 million yuan? That's a real mansion. Auntie, Mother Liu's gaze was so hot that Li Jie felt a little uncomfortable looking at her. "Mr. Li, tell me." Mother Liu's face was full of smiles. "Auntie, please stop calling me Mr. Li, I'm not an outsider. Just call me Xiaoja," Li Jie said, looked at Liu Yufei with a smile, and stretched out his arms to hold her in his arms. He planned to strike while the iron was hot today. How can you give away villas and luxury cars for free? As for the fact that the two of them have not known each other for a long time and their relationship is not very deep, it doesn't matter. They can become in love over time. Seeing Li Jie hugging his daughter, the smile on Liu's mother's face became even stronger. "Okay, then Xiaoja, you tell me. I plan to set the signing date for New Year's Day next month, and then I will hold a grand signing ceremony for Sissy. Auntie, what do you think?" His seemingly polite inquiry was actually a notification. "Xiaoja, both Auntie and Sissy believe in you. From now on, just make arrangements for Sissy's affairs." Mother Lu glanced at her daughter and said in a trusting tone. "Okay, then it's settled." Li Jie was quite satisfied with Liu's mother's attitude. As long as she doesn't interfere and he convinces Liu Yufei, he can fully bring out her value. Top Traffic is a promotional business card. The publicity effect brought to Kudong Group by signing Liu Yufei is worth hundreds of millions. Just like Richard Liu marrying the milk tea sister, it brought huge publicity effect to Gaodong. It seems like she is showing off her wife, but in fact she is advertising for her company. If Richard hadn't stumbled abroad, the publicity would have continued. The same goes for Big Mimi. One person supports a listed company, and she is the business card of the company. Liu Yufei is actually very valuable now. It was a waste to leave her to a grassroots team before. In the afternoon, Li Jie found a specialty restaurant nearby and treated Liu Yufei and Liu's mother to a meal, which was considered a reception feast. After finishing the meal and returning to the villa, Mother Lu said to the two of them, "Xiaoja, Qian, I will go back to the room first. You two can spend more time together. It's not easy." Mother Lu finally has the eyesight to see. Li Jie glanced at Liu Yufei and then said, "I'm also more interested in acting, and I'd like to ask Qian for advice." Mother Lu was slightly surprised when she heard this. "Xiaoja, are you still interested in acting?" Liu Yufei smiled and said, "Mom, he played Jin Tan in The Heirs. Liu's mother was even more surprised when she heard this. She didn't expect that Li Jie, a billionaire, would go into acting. Actually, Sissy's acting skills aren't that good either. You two should discuss it with each other. After Liu's mother left, Li Jie said to Liu Yufei, Qingzi, let's go to the room for a scene. Okay, Liu Yufei nodded. This villa has a total of 5 rooms, and Liu Yufei chose the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. This room is very large, covering 50 or 60 square meters, and the location is very good. There is an outdoor garden below, and you can see flowers and plants when you open the window. When they came to the room, the two sat down by the bed. Liu Yufei glanced at Li Jie and asked, Brother Jie, which scene do you want to do? Although she keeps calling Brother Jie, her birthday is actually older than that of Li Jie. Li Jie thought for a while and said, how about we choose a few passages from the Condor to play against each other? Sissy, I really like your role as the little dragon girl. He actually prefers her roles as Wang Yuyan and Bai Xiaozhu. However, Wang Yuyan can let her try again next time. As for Bai Xiaozhu, this role is probably difficult to restore. Liu Yufei was only 14 years old when she played Bai Xiaozhu. She is now 22 years old. After 8 years, she is far from her current state at that time. Liu Yufei listened and nodded, okay, I'll play Xiao Longnu, and Brother Jie, will you play Yang Guo? Li Jie shook his head, the role of Yang Guo is too difficult to challenge. I'd better play Yin's Hyping, no, Zhen's Hyping. It's really not that he didn't choose Yang Guo because he wanted to be a dragon knight, but this role is really challenging and difficult. Most of the actors who played the classic roles in Jin Yang's martial arts dramas are controversial, but there is only one role that is almost without controversy. That is Yang Guo played by Bai Gu. How could Li Jie take on a challenge without overestimating his capabilities? Liu Yufei's face looked a little strange. She was not stupid, so how could she not guess what Li Jie was thinking? When she first met Li Jie, she thought he was quite serious. But after being forcibly kissed by him that time, she understood that the other person was not as serious as he appeared on the surface. But now she has a new understanding of Li Jie. Not only is he not serious, he is also a bit bad. However, she was not afraid even of the scene with the Dragon Knight. In her version of the Condor, there is no intimate scene at all in that crucial scene. Then which scene should we do first? Wait a moment. Li Jie took out his mobile phone and made a call. Not long after he finished the call, Ruan Jing knocked on the door and walked in, holding a costume in her hand. Behind her was a fashionably dressed woman in her late 20s, carrying a small box in her hand. You still need to change costumes, Liu Yufei said in surprise. Is this the case for the duel scene? Li Jie smiled and said, not only do you have to change costumes, but you also have to put on makeup. Even if it's a duet, we have to take it seriously. After speaking, he looked at the woman behind Ruanjing and introduced, this is Kexin, a top-notch makeup artist in the industry. Kexin, sorry to trouble you. When Kexin heard this, he quickly said, Mr. Li, you are too polite. This is my job. She received a notice that she was coming to do makeup for an important person, but she didn't expect it to be Liu Yufei. Have you seen Yufei's The Condor? I've seen it. I really like this drama. Can you copy the makeup of Little Dragon Girl in the play? No problem. Li Jie nodded, okay, let's start putting on makeup now. Kexin asked Liu Yufei to sit down in front of the dressing table, opened the makeup box, took out a lot of cosmetics, and started to help her put on makeup. The makeup time is not too long, it takes less than 30 minutes to complete the makeup. Next, Kexin helped Liu Yufei change into costumes and do her hair. At this time, Li Jie couldn't stay in the bedroom anymore, so he got up and went outside to wait. After more than 30 minutes, the door was opened again, and it was finally over. Li Jie walked into the bedroom and looked up and down at Lu Yufei, who was sitting in front of the dressing table. She was dressed in white, with long hair reaching her waist, and skin as white as snow, exuding an ethereal and cold temperament. Especially the moment when I looked back, it was as if Xiao Long really walked out of the screen. I have to say that her modern clothes and ancient clothes have completely different temperaments. It's over, you're here, Lu Yufei said with a smile. She actually took advantage of him. Li Jie also smiled at her, Miss Long. She wanted to be his master and aunt, but he didn't want to be her son. Mr. Li, what do you think of the effect? Kexan asked. Li Jie nodded, satisfied, very good. The character restoration degree is 95%. After all, 4 or 5 years have passed, and even Lu Yufei herself cannot restore the character 100%. Mr. Li, I'll leave first. Kxin picked up the makeup box. Before leaving, she took another look at Lu Yufei, who was dressed as a little dragon girl. Rich people really know how to play. After Kxin and Ruanjing both left, Li Jie said to Lu Yufei, Qian, let's start playing together. Lu Yufei nodded, then which scene are we going to do? Let's deal with the most critical scene first. Li Jie was too lazy to act pretentious and deal with other scenes first. Lu Yufei looked at him and said to her heart that it was indeed the case. He just wants to be a dragon knight. She hesitated, then agreed, okay. She didn't really want to act, but it was hard to refuse. After Lu Yufei lay down on the bed, Li Jie took out a thin handkerchief and covered her face. Shouldn't it be black cloth? Lu Yufei asked. You acted in the 06 version. It's not a challenge for you. Let's try the 95 version. This version is a white handkerchief. After saying that, Li Jie started to kiss her through the handkerchief. He acted extremely devotedly and followed the 1995 version of the plot exactly. After kissing for a while, Li Jie began to untie her clothes again. You didn't take off your clothes in the 1995 version, right? Seeing Li Jiejin take off her costume, Lu Yufei panicked a little. Let's try version 98 again. Li Jie kissed her again and kept moving his hands. The 1998 version is the Singapore version. This version is a bit larger, and the little dragon girl is covered with only one piece of clothing. Just then, the cell phone placed aside suddenly rang. Lu Yufei reminded, Brother Jie, your phone is ringing. Don't worry about it. Li Jie kept moving. How can I be distracted during the show? You'd better answer it in case there's something important, Lu Yufei said. Okay, seeing the phone ringing non-stop, Li Jie sighed and let her go for the time being. He stood up and took the phone and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. Delaying his precious screen time. Li Jie hung up the phone and blocked the number again. These calls from strangers are not important calls. Most of them are harassment and relationship calls. He might answer them when he is fine, but at this critical moment of the show, he has no intention of listening to the other party's nonsense. Miss Long, let's continue.